Recording in progress.
Well, good evening. This is a Greenbelt City Council work session. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Recreation Department budget. My name is Emmett Jordan. I'm the mayor of the city of Greenbelt. Colleagues, could you introduce yourselves, please?
Kristen Weaver, Mayor Pro Tem.
Jenny Pompey, council member.
Amy Niesel, council member.
Silky Pope, council member.
Daniel McKinney, council member.
Okay. Any information items for the end of the meeting?
I have one.
Mr. Samaron? Okay. Okay. Well, we do hold these council work sessions a couple times a week, Mondays and Wednesdays usually, to exchange information with community stakeholder groups or to gather information from staff, advisory boards, or residents. No votes or formal actions are taken at work sessions. Our work sessions and our meetings are open to the public except for executive sessions as authorized by state law so that residents and others can observe council's deliberations. We strive always to provide reasonable opportunities for the public to voice opinions on matters being considered. So we'll pause periodically tonight for public comment, probably every 20 minutes or so. During these times, if a member of the public wants to ask a question, address council or city administration, if you're in the room, you can raise your hand, and after being recognized, please go over to the podium. We need you to state your name and where you live in Greenbelt, more or less. We need that information for the minutes. And if you are on Zoom, you can submit a question by using the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen, or you can raise your virtual hand, and once again, after we recognize you, we'll promote you so that you can speak. And if you're watching on cable TV or YouTube, you can send an email to us at questions@greenbeltmd.gov. So with the public comment, please limit your remarks 3 to 5 minutes and speak on one topic related to the question under consideration. And as always, we ask that you avoid questioning the motives of others, and in general, let's all be civil in our remarks. So tonight is another budget work session. We've had about 8 or 9 sessions so far. So we're more than halfway through. And at the council meeting on Monday, we held a public hearing for the residents, for folks to voice their opinions on all that we had talked about, and we didn't really get too many responses. In fact, we didn't get any at all. But, the budget actually submitted by the city manager, council reviews it very, very carefully. And in late May, hopefully we will approve the budget. We may have a number of revisions, but Mr. Samaron, our city manager, this is his first time through the budget process, and he and our city treasurer, Bertha Gaiman, worked very, very hard to kind of pull all of this information together. So, Mr. Samaron, welcome. Oh, good evening. So, Ms. Gaiman, as the city treasurer, you worked with each of the departments. You sort of manipulated the numbers. You worked with the city manager to reconcile things and to try and close the gaps. So, you got any comments about the recreation or the museum's budget?
What I would say, I just added something to their budget that maybe you all will support, and that's a hula hoop class. But other than that, it is not. It's not in the budget right now. But yes, I worked very closely with all the departments. Recreation is one of my favorites because so much happens there. I see the kids. I even had my grandson there actually. So a lot of great things, a lot of great programs happening in recreation. I see that the kids are just all over the place, particularly in the summertime. So I watch them just come in and out of the pool area. They are excited. And so I've not seen a recreation program as robust as this one. So I'm happy to be part of this and work very closely with them all during the year, actually, but particularly during the budget time. So their budget is ready. They have their crew. I mean, I think they have the biggest crew that we've seen thus far. They want to convince you that all these programs are necessary. So I'll turn it over back to you or either to Greg.
Thank you so much. So we're joined, Greg Varda is the Director of Recreation. Andrew Phelan is the Director of Operations.
Facilities and Operations.
Facilities and
Assistant
Operations.
Director.
And Ann Udeman, you are the program person?
Exactly, Assistant Director of Recreation Programs.
Okay, well, this is a pretty impressive crew that you've brought with you. Now, it's not quite as, with public safety, sometimes we've got the wall out here, which is great because there are so many important things that public safety do. But, when you talk about public safety and when you talk about what makes a city tick, the recreation programs are just integral to the city of Greenbelt from the very beginning to this day. It's been one of the strengths and something that we pride ourselves upon because we are, in fact, independent. Most other municipalities in the Prince George's County actually do their recreation programs through Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. So I don't know. I guess have we always done it that way, or? Okay, and we do have an arrangement where, because we are providing these programs, the tax differential for our taxpayers, some money actually comes back from the county taxes to people.
$270,000 comes back to the city of Greenbelt, and it's probably time to look at that number again. And in my opinion, it should be increased.
Yeah, Mr. Roberts.
Should we paying out on that? How much are we paying in the county in the recreation tax?
I don't know the answer to that question, Miss.
I know if it's, anything like it used to be, it's a lot more than what we're getting back. So I agree with you, we should be getting a lot more back.
Right, and certainly, yes. That number hasn't been increased in probably 8 to 10 years.
Do need to circle back and talk about that. Of course, most of our programs are subsidized, pretty heavily subsidized by the city in addition to program fees. So you've got a memo, and I was thinking maybe we can go through the first, we can start off going through the first 2 or 3 pages of the memo, then kind of circle back to the budget book, and the subsequent parts of your memo actually go into detail in the various departments and whatnot.
So, yeah, but do have a large crew behind me. I thought this would be a good opportunity to bring the supervisors out, since we have 3 new council members and a new city manager. So when we get to their section of the budget, I'd like to bring them up to the table and they can talk a little bit about what they do and answer any questions that you may have. This budget includes a halftime coordinator. The FY25 proposed budget includes a halftime coordinator. We are also recommending that we take the TR supervisor position, which is a grade 14, and reduce that to a coordinator at a grade 10 to help defer some of the cost of the halftime coordinator. And it also includes a 2% COLA for non-classified staff for the 2nd year in a row, which we applaud council for recognizing the value of our part-time employees and including them in the COLA. We are working on many projects in the department. We have 8 projects going right now. It's not normal for us to have this many projects. Usually we get 1 or 2 a year. So a lot of our time is, especially Andrew's time, he's doing a lot of the project managing or working with project managers on these particular things. And it's a learning process for us as we go through. We're asking a lot of questions and trying to figure things out on the fly here, since the time is compact and when we have to get these projects done.
And the projects are American Rescue Plan funded.
They're both ARPA and capital. Yeah, right. Some of the issues that we're still dealing with is facility space. A lot of our programs are full. We don't like waiting lists, but unfortunately we have to take them. We certainly don't like turning campers away in the summertime, but we're limited on how many campers we can take by how much space we have. Like I said, recognizing the non-classified staff is very important to us. 72% of our staff are Greenbelt residents. There is a diverse talent in the Greenbelt area, and they do many different things for our department. Many of them are frontline employees and deal with the public daily. So we'd like to keep growing our non-classified benefit package. We'd like to look into that and possibly have a second tier of non-classified staff for professional people that have certain certifications and skills that are unique in order to run a class. We are focused on DEI. This budget includes opening our Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center weekdays. We usually don't open that till 2 o'clock. We want to open it at 10 o'clock and offer classes over in Spring Hill Lake or Franklin Park. We think there is a need for that, and we think we could get good attendance on some different programs, both for children and adult classes. And mental health and wellness, we deal with a lot of different children that are dealing with those disabilities, and at every age, young kids all the way up to teenagers. So we focus on that as well.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
So does this budget include that second tier of non-classified staff, or is that just sort of a note to get us thinking about it for next budget?
It's a note to start thinking about it. It's just an idea. We have an idea of what we think we'd like to do, but we'd have to have deeper discussions with the city manager, HR director, and the city treasurer as well.
Okay, let's pivot back to the budget book, to the first couple of pages. Miss Lashley Mullen, can you pull up the page 205? Or, it's up there. Oh, okay, well, that's the page. So I just want to quickly kind of look at the staffing, the expenditures summary, and the organizational chart. So the organizational chart is on page 205. There you go. So, Mr. Varda, you were mentioning that overall you're just adding really one position, or you're kind of a halftime coordinator. And where's that? How's the chart different this year?
So that halftime coordinator would actually be a recreation coordinator. So you'll see them under centers, I believe. And that, yeah, rec centers, it was a 3.5, but you're seeing a 4 now. That's where the halftime position would go. And this person would primarily, part of their time would be coordinating all the city special events, permits, working with the different groups, and realizing council's busy schedule and hopefully planning a little bit better so you don't have to be in 2 places at one time. So that's going to be 4 places at one time. So that's going to be part of the job as well.
Okay. And you mentioned the permitting, so you're doing that now. Who's doing the?
Patrick Mullins
Patrick.
is taking on that job chore.
Okay. So now do you want to give us a quick overview or talk about some of your broad goals?
Yeah, so just looking in the admin budget, we had 2 things we worked on this year, and that's probably carry over into next year. And I'll turn this over to Andrew, but we did some upgrading to our RecTrack system and credit card processing, and moved to the server for Vermont system. So we're no longer on the city's server, but Andrew knows that stuff way better than me, so he can clarify that.
You pretty much said it's directly integrated with RecTrack, so that's helpful. And it's greatly improved the security of our credit card payments. We are no longer manually entering credit card numbers on a keyboard at this point. It was long overdue. We have 11 credit card readers out there at our facilities, and we can accept all forms of payment at this point now, all forms of credit card payment.
Apple Pay and chip reader as
Apple
well.
Pay,
Yeah.
tap, chip, all that stuff.
Cash App?
Cash App, I believe. If it's like Apple Pay to where it has a barcode linked to your account, I believe that works. Yes.
Ooh. Hey, is that a one-time expense or that's an ongoing expense?
It's a one-time expense with purchasing the credit card readers. And the ongoing expense the increase is moving the database from the city server to a hosted services.
So that's up around, was it $10,000 this year?
The hosted services is probably around $9,000 to $10,000 additional a year, yes.
You're saying that in the future, that's going to come down?
That will stay at where it's at, which is, I believe, 19,000. So it's going to hosted services is an additional $9,000 to $10,000 a year.
Right. Okay.
Benefit to that, Mr. Mayor, is that the security, the upgrades to that software are done on the cloud by the provider, so we would not be doing those updates internally as we were when we were hosting the software. Now it's hosted in the cloud. It's something that our team no longer has to support. We'll have that continued support by the provider.
Yeah, we're always on the latest version of RecTrack, so any glitches, we don't have to, wait for when our IT staff is available to perform an update. So it's a good situation for sure.
It's been in place this year, so was there any downtime or any glitches kind of just getting it implemented to the point where it is now? Because I guess the summer is going to be the
No
test.
significant downtime, and our goal all along was to get it done, before the summer. Unfortunately, it did interfere with our camp registration a bit, but that was inconvenient. But our staff persevered and made it work.
So
Software, we have been using the same software provider for 20 years,
Probably close to 30 years.
30 years.
Yeah.
There's probably time for an update.
I will say that RecTrack is the best in the business. Park and Planning recently converted probably, 5+ years ago. It's, in my opinion, it has its issues. Everything does, but in my honest opinion, it's probably the best one out there.
Okay, you say Park and Planning's that's the software they use?
That's correct.
Okay. Could you scroll, Ms. Mont, to the top of the page? There you go. There you go. Mayor Pro Tem?
Oh, there were a couple of things under the, the accomplishments, I think, on that page. We're on but if you want to talk about the top of the page, if there's something up there, we can go back down afterwards.
I was just looking at the budget overall. So things, I guess 2022, we were sort of right in the middle of COVID. So just in looking at those numbers, if you look at FY22, those numbers are lower than usual because, although we pivoted and a lot of virtual programs were available, just as far as the budget, the 2022 year budget is a little bit of an outlier.
Right.
Because looking at 2022 to the current year, it's about $500,000, $2.5 million different, or $500,000, $2.5 million since 2022 difference increase in expenses. So I just wanted to kind of point that out. The park line, that's was up quite a bit since 2022. Parks was about $500,000. Arts and special events.
What line are you looking at?
Jumping over
What
to.
line item?
Was I looking at the summary? Oh, gosh. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped over to page 207. Oh, I'm so sorry. Mayor Pro Tem, you had some.
Well, yeah, they were on some of the accomplishments under admin that I wanted to ask a couple things about. First of all, timeline on Buddy Attic Park Master Plan.
I should be getting the draft plan by the end of this month, at which time I will share that plan with advisory boards and committees and get their feedback, and then plan a work session with council. I'm guessing sometime this summer, if possible, maybe July.
Okay.
Sometimes it takes a little while to get reports back from advisory boards.
Right,
so, yeah.
especially over the summer, that might be
Right.
challenging because I
Right.
know that it may be harder to get quorum potentially if people are on vacation and things like that. And the other things I wanted to ask is sort of in that accomplishment sections, it talks about the language translation tool. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I think I remember seeing some things about the report, but it'd be good to hear a little bit more about the efforts there.
That's been Ann's project, and she has started the pilot program, so I'm going to let her fill you in on that.
Sure. So, as we all know, we have a lot of folks in Greenbelt that are not quite proficient in English yet, English language learners, and especially at the Greenbelt Aquatic Fitness Center, we have a lot of folks that come in, and we just identified a challenge. We wanted to improve our ability to communicate with folks that aren't proficient in English. So I did a little bit of research on some different tools. I, no surprise, identified Google Translate as the best tool to use. We've purchased some Google Pixel tablets, which we plan to use to deliver Google Translate throughout all our programs and all of our facilities. And we did have a pilot project at the Aquatic Fitness Center, and I think it really helped with the communication barrier there. In the next month, more or less, by the end of May, we plan to train all of our part-time staff within our facilities. And we have a few little kinks to work out. We'd like to mount these tablets in some of our facilities so they're secure, we know where they are, and they're accessible to everyone. So we're working on identifying some devices, some mounts to mount these in 3 of our facilities. And so we're really excited about improving our ability to communicate with everyone in Greenbelt.
So does it use, is it mostly text-based translation? So, because I've used, that's what I've mostly used Google Translate for. So it's somebody says something and then the other person can read the text in the other language. Is that what you're using, or is there also the capability for it to read aloud?
Both.
Okay.
But what we're using it most for is it's called conversation mode.
Okay.
You can speak in English, I can speak in Spanish, and it translated, it's almost instant. And so you can have a conversation in, the 2 languages. Another way we've used it is you can use the camera on the tablet and hold it over this document, for example, or any document, and it'll translate it into the other language. So our activity guides, for example, we've often used it to, just translate it into another language so folks can learn more about what we have to offer here in Greenbelt.
What about, are there capabilities if somebody is blind or visually impaired and so could not read the text on the screen, or alternatively, if someone isn't, maybe might speak a different language but is not literate in that language, does it read aloud as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Can do that as well.
Okay. So the questions I was asking was back on page 204, I'm sorry. And it's really just under the expenditure summary part. And I was noting that just looking overall at expenses, they have increased by about $500,000 from the adopted budget 2024 to 2025. Also, the increase in rec center expenses, actual last year, it went down, but went back up again. So I was just kind of wondering about some of the trends. I know that our programs are expanding, but it seems like there was a lot of variability in some of the numbers. The arts and special events budget, it's tripled since 2022. And also with the Aquatic and Fitness Center, I know we're going to talk about that later, but if the pool is closed part of the year next year, is that going to actually impact these numbers?
Absolutely. It'll impact certainly the pool expenditures and revenues if we're closed for any significant period of time. We don't know what that time is yet, so it's hard for us to kind of give you an estimate on what that would be. Hopefully, we're going to get that information in the next couple weeks, and we can start figuring this out. I think a large percentage of the increase is in the numbers is due to the compensation study and the COLA for non-classified staff. And then you're right, we are expanding programs. There's, part of our mission is to be responsible or be to listen to our patrons and see what they want and listen to them and put some programs in place that they're looking for. So, we're always doing that. We're always trying new programs. So, and a lot of these expenses come with a revenue as well. Many programs in the arts, the expenses may go up, but so will the revenues. So,
Yeah, and I appreciate that. At the bottom of the page, there's revenues as a percentage of expenditures. So you're projecting that 1/4 will be generating, the city will be underwriting 3/4 of the expenses, and then revenues would cover 1/4.
that's correct. Yeah. I will say, one of the big expenses in the expenditure summary is parks at 1.8. We don't manage, the only line item we manage in the parks are park rangers. That's it. The rest is under Public Works, but the money falls into the recreation budget. So, and there is no revenue associated with that number either.
With parks specifically, the number that you just mentioned, the 1.8 million. So that revenue, some of it's coming directly from the ARPA funding. So that's what we're looking at here, ARPA funding, or we replaced general fund. Oh, it's not in here. Okay.
That number includes all the park staff at Public Works, all the class park maintenance staff at Public Works, right?
Ms. Pope and then Ms. Pompey.
When you're closing the Aquatic Fitness Center, are you closing the entire building, or you have the?
No, we believe we'll keep the fitness wing open. Yeah, that will remain open. We don't think that'll be involved or be affected. Yeah.
I have pretty much the same highlighted as Mayor Jordan just mentioned, so I'm good.
Yes, so, pardon me. I noticed that the therapeutic recreation line, that's gone down a bit, and the recreation programs, that line is mostly static from what was budgeted, I guess, in 2024. So I just wanted to ask about that because I noticed you still have the same sort of revenue expected or even a little more revenue expected, even though expenses are sort of down or static. So I was wondering sort of how that math works.
Up to you.
Sure. So the TR budget right now, the full-time position is vacant. So there's some cost savings there. We have a fantastic part-time person who's doing an excellent job, but at a lower cost to the city. That's the biggest reflection. And also, we don't anticipate filling that full-time position until about halfway through the fiscal year. So that combination of things is why the TR budget is lower.
Councilmember McKinney.
Reflected in maybe another budget or the conversation that we had with the grants coordinator, but I've noticed that the grants line has remained fairly static as well. And I'm just wondering if there are other opportunities that are already, so this might be a question more for Mr. Salmerone, if there are more opportunities in fiscal year 2025 that are grants specifically for this budget to be able to raise that up.
Not in this current budget. We are exploring grant opportunities for recreations and parks facilities. So one we're actively pursuing right now is funding to make improvements to the Shram Hills recreation facility. It's in need of some. In terms of staffing and other resources, we're changing our grant strategy in the coming weeks, where we're hoping to meet with all the department heads and strategize, do strategic planning around what programs they're currently running that have a potential for fundraising efforts through grants. What could we activities so that we are doing a lot of the legwork ahead of any opportunities that are coming up, and then target specific funding sources based on those programmings. Not all of our activities can be grant funded, but there are some that could help offset the cost.
And can we maybe move this microphone over a little bit so that one can go a little bit closer to Host my.
That's good to hear. Thanks for bringing that up, Councilmember McKinney. I was kind of thinking the same thing. I think maybe just looking through the proposal, maybe there are some additional opportunities, particularly around programming for, it's just, the bandwidth and being able to, well, I think we can do a better job of identifying some opportunities, but, grants take a lot of work, so.
They do. One that Greg and I have discussed revisiting. It's the one that he mentioned earlier about what tax money is reimbursed to us by the county. We see opportunities to revisit that conversation. So that will probably be the first door we're knocking, because we have such a robust recreations program.
That tends to be a political thing, because it doesn't just affect Greenbelt. It's all the municipalities like Laurel and Bowie and others that get double taxed for recreation when they have a recreation program. So usually councils get together and talk to the state delegate or state delegates and try to persuade them to up that increase.
I think we can do that. Let's make a note of that. Let's see. I'm seeing a lot of hands waving around. Do you want to pause for some comment now?
Can I ask one quick question?
Yes, please.
Under your performance measures, are these numbers, do they reflect like guests or users? Is that what those numbers are?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Great. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
And we're going to, just to remind council and everyone, we're going to go through, we're going to stop at each budget and ask questions about that particular area as well. Right. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Mr. Hartman?
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Garden Way. For I know that you're using the Google translation device. Are you also open to bilingual and trilingual staff? Because I know that the translator is not 100% accurate, and I also know that having a live person be able to communicate with folks is much, much, much better than using a translator. So, and I know that a lot of police departments give a bonus for other languages. So if you have a bi or trilingual staff person and advertise for that, then that might help as well. Because it gives it a more personal touch when you're trying to communicate with people. Also nuances and things of that nature, which don't come out in a Google translation. Thank you.
I think that we do, when we're advertising for positions, one of the criterias or something that we are definitely looking for are individuals who can speak more than one language. Is that something that would definitely be embedded in our job descriptions?
Yes, I can revisit that with our HR department. There are preferences that we can designate, and language speaking abilities would be one of those two. Mr. Hartman's question about paying subsidies or stipends for additional languages, we do that for staff already.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Orleans and Ms. Davis.
Bill Orleans. If I heard correctly, it was suggested that the therapeutic recreation supervisor would remain unfilled until later in the next fiscal year. I don't fully understand that. By my best estimate, it's been about 2 years since the last full-time named a therapeutic recreation director left Greenbelt. I may think under a cloud. Others are free to disagree with me. And it would seem to me, based on my limited knowledge of the 2 people that I knew by name who filled that position and the work that I observed them doing, that's kind of an important position. And while I've met briefly the young woman, and I don't know her name, who's filling that position, and I heard it said that she's doing a good job, if she's doing a good job, maybe she should be named sooner than later to fill the position on a permanent basis. Several references tonight to the compensation study, and I heard one reference to the fact that the Recreation Department is fully into deploying DEI as a departmental methodology, as it is will be for the city. The people who work for the city of Greenbelt in the past and in the future, whomever they are, deserve to be compensated appropriately and not having to endure service at a half-time or part-time or less than the fully compensated period of time doing a job before they obtain the grade to be compensated fully for doing the job that they were doing previously at a lesser compensation. I'd like at least an answer to the question why, since it's been 2 years since we last had a therapeutic recreation director, we have to wait sometime until next fiscal year to see that position filled again.
So it hasn't been 2 years, it's been about a year. Our last one resigned.
Not even.
Not even a year. And so, no. And so the proposed budget has the position being filled 6 months into the fiscal year as a cost-saving measures to help close the gap.
Ms. Davis?
Jay Davis, Greenbelt East. Sometimes a staff member prefers part-time. It fits their family schedule better. I don't know if that's this particular case, but sometimes it works that way. On page, I have some questions on page 205. How many park rangers do we have?
We currently have 5 park rangers and a park ranger supervisor.
So we have 5 plus.
Well, the coordinator, the new coordinator that we're proposing, one of their responsibilities would be the park ranger supervisor. So he's heavily involved with the park rangers.
And have we given up the idea of the mobile rec unit?
No, we haven't given up on the idea. We faced some, I guess, unexpected challenges in developing relationships with locations that are not owned by the city of Greenbelt, you know, whether that be the Franklin Park community or another homeowners association. I think a lot of the concerns are liability concerns. And that was unexpected. Of course, we could deploy them, and we do deploy the mobile recreation unit at city events. Because of the challenges and an opportunity we had to do some additional teen and tween programming, we shifted our focus primarily due to the mental health challenges of the teen and tween age group that we learned about post-pandemic. And so we've started some new programs, kind of shifted our focus, but we do still hope to develop the mobile recreation.
And I'm glad that you have been focusing on the tweens and the teens. I know that has been noticed in community service surveys in the past that we need to have more of those. On page 207, professional services went up quite a bit. Why?
It's line item 30.
So that's due to our background investigations for our community groups, recognition groups. Yeah.
And I think
we have more recognition groups than we've had in the past. They keep increasing.
And I think that you already mentioned other services that you're switching over to the computer or the credit card reader or whatever.
That's correct.
And then and I'm glad to see that membership and training is going up. I'm assuming that's because you have increased members and we have increased needs to train. So I'm glad to see that. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. You probably don't have this offhand, but with the RecTech database, how many records are in there?
30 years worth of records.
How many households are in there? I could run a report tomorrow and give you that number.
It's
Moving it from one place to another, so it's just a general question.
A lot.
some thousands.
We did a purge before we went to like the latest version we're on of all of our data that was older than, I believe, 5 to 7 years. But that was several years ago when we did that. But we no longer have to do that because everything is cloud-based.
That makes good sense that you did a purge and kind of archived the old information. Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I had one more question, because I think we're maybe about done with admin, but I noticed under the management objectives, the re-engaging Greenbelt Middle School regarding the access to space. I just wondered if you could give us an update on that, and also if there's anything that council can do to help with that specifically.
Yes, on council. I don't know exactly what that is yet, but interestingly enough, I got an email today from a person we were working with from the Board of Education back in 2015.
Really?
When he responded to an email from 2015 today.
Wow.
And we had an MOU in place. The city was happy with it, but they had to run it through their people, which is probably 10 or so different people, lawyers and everything. And it just stalled out. One lawyer moved on, they had to start over. So that is an MBO in this budget, and I responded to the email today saying, yes, we're very interested. Let's start over maybe, since everybody a lot of the people on the email chain are no longer there. So I haven't gotten a response back yet, but
Let's hope it doesn't take another 8 years. Let's hope.
Had to ask me if it was spam.
yeah, I was like, this can't be real, responding to an email almost 10 years later. But as the Board of Ed is challenging to work with, but we're not gonna give up. We're gonna keep trying to get use of that space. It's my belief that our schools should become community centers when schools are out, weekends and after hours. Certainly in Franklin Park and Greenbelt West, that would be a game changer for us if we could use the schools, the fields and the schools for classes and programs. But if there's a model to look at, I think Howard County does it very well. After school and weekends, they turn them over to the Parks and Recreation Department to permit out to the organizations. But I'd love to see Prince George's County get there someday.
Well, I think there's definitely interest. I know Jenny and I have talked about that some. So I don't know if that's something that we could consider as a council to, delegating one or two of us to regularly check in on that with you and work with the Board of Education and then report back to council on that sort of thing. I think that's an opportunity to kind of to try to push for that, especially since it sounds like we may have an opening again.
Hopefully, we certainly appreciate that, and we'll certainly keep you up to date as we move forward on this.
It's been a priority of mine for quite some time, and I've talked to Dr. Jackson and Principal Clements a number of times about their community school designation and how we can partner together. So it is a priority. I'd like to see it move forward.
And some of our fields will be coming offline soon with the ball field improvements. So if we could get access to some additional fields, that would be very, very helpful.
Lighted field in Greenbelt is Greenbelt Middle School. Yeah. Yeah.
I would think that they would welcome the help because PGCPS has a lot of trouble maintaining their fields. Like their fields are notoriously terrible.
Right.
So if they had an MOU with us, they could actually have functional fields even for their students.
That was part of the MOU where the city would maintain the field. The only thing the county had to do was bring them back up to playing condition because they were in such poor shape. So they had to do some capital outlay to bring the field back up to normal operation. And then the city was going to take it over from there. They were going to cut it. They were going to line it. They were going to aerate it and overseed it. But that's the MOU we had worked out in 2015. So I don't know where they are now. I'm not sure who the players are now. So hopefully I get a call back and we can start this over and re-engage.
It was just in very bad shape. I remember, and I think it would have been a really high cost for them to just bring the fields back up to where we say, okay, we're going to take it over.
Right.
I think that was a big problem as well. But like you said, new players, our new superintendent, and so we'll see. Hopefully it works out because the lighting and everything is perfect over at Greenbelt Middle. Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and move to the arts budget, page 209.
If I can just mention one
please
thing,
go ahead.
Mayor, in the admin budget, something council might be interested in is our financial assistance program. We have 3 pots of money that we pull from. The city funds a financial assistance. We have Kids to Camp Fund, and we have the Mary Geiger Scholarship Fund, primarily for the arts. In FY23, we helped 65 families with financial assistance, and so far this year, we are at 55 families. With camp upon us, I expect that to go up considerably. So our financial assistance program is working. We've kind of streamlined the program. You work with one person in the office. It's very discreet. A lot of it can be done online or over the phone through email. So happy to report back to council on that.
You do that internally, or do you work with, consult with CARES at all in terms of just?
Completely recreation and administration handles that.
Excellent. Let's move on to the arts budget on page 209.
Cole can join us. Nicole DeWald, art supervisor, primarily responsible for all the great art events we have here in Greenbelt and programs. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
Well, I don't know if on page 210, I made a couple of notes. I was just initially I'd said that 2002 was an outlier just in terms of what actually happened in 2002. And I'm trying to think back to exactly when COVID hit. I guess it hit in March of 2021.
2020.
2020.
Things started shutting down for us, was in March.
So in terms, looking at 2022 to what's proposed for 2025, there's a stark contrast.
Yes, and the difference that you're seeing there is not only a function of the COVID recovery, but it's also a function of the transfer of a couple of staff positions. So there are 2 positions that have moved. They were not new. A recreation coordinator position was transferred from the youth center into the arts. And also the performing arts coordinator was transferred from the community center into the arts. So some of this is just a structural realignment that has worked out very, very well for our team, as you can imagine. Only enhancing the synergy that we already had between the visual and performing arts sides. So very effective.
So kind of looking at the numbers, just in terms of the adopted versus the estimated budget for this year, the operating expenses, there are a couple of line items there that really deviated quite a bit. So you mentioned in the notes that you were spending down an arts relief grant. So would I see that in the revenue for 2024, 2023, or where is that?
Yes, we received $100,000 over the course of 2 arts relief grants through the Maryland State Arts Council. All of those funds were received in FY23. And we have the leeway to expend some of those grant funds in 24. So all the revenue was already booked. The expenses are continuing to roll in this year. And you are seeing some of that in departmental equipment and in the 75 account under supplies. That's actually quite a broad category.
So there was quite a bit of equipment that
Yes.
we...
Including some HEPA filters that are ceiling mounted that we were able to install in the artist in residence studios and in the visual arts classroom, which is a very, very important health upgrade to really catch the fine particulate matter and make it safer for them to use a wider variety of materials in their spaces.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, and this may actually be related because I noticed there was a gap on the Maryland State Arts Council line under fiscal 23. There's just a blank there, and so I wonder if some of that funding that you just were discussing, should that be in that blank?
No, we receive an annual operating grant from the Maryland State Arts Council, and that's just some tweaking that we need to do for the next iteration of this budget. But we've been receiving the operating funds consistently every year.
Okay, so that's just it's just missing there. It's not that we didn't get any money. It's just there's a number missing.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, a few minutes ago, we were talking about grant seeking, and we get the money from the State Arts Council for operating support. So I'm wondering if there are other opportunities out there that we could seek.
Yes,
to
we've
provide
also.
more programming.
Over the years, we've been obtaining grants from the Prince George's Arts and Humanities Council and from ATHA to support our programs. We do have an ATHA grant this year, and we also have a tertiary. We have 3 different grants running right now from the state. In addition to the Arts Relief and our General Operating Fund, we also have one of our dance program administrators, who's also an instructor, Lisa Pelletier, who is on the Maryland teaching artist roster, so was able to obtain funds through that for her portion of the Arts in the After Schools program that we're doing with our colleagues over at Spring Hill Lake Rec Center.
Okay, so that doesn't appear here, but those are grants, funding that's been coming in.
It should, yeah, I'm not certain if it's reflected under the grants line item yet, but that is a current, that's a current resource that we have. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Hey, have we heard anything from ATHA? I know that their deadline was about a month ago, and
We have not on the cemeteries applications.
got 1 in or 3 additional ATHA grants that you applied for this year?
We're strictly going to them for the funding for the after school, which we did get, and we are preparing, to make that request for next year as well. It's worked out very well. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to comment, because it's on the MBOs on this page, is I appreciate that you're expanding the Artful Afternoons to Greenbelt West. Danielle and I were at the what was it, like the, I forget what the theme was. But the specific art theme was Matisse, yes. So it was like the fun shapes and things, and that. So thank you for expanding the opportunities over there. And it also, seeing you reminds me, I took some pictures at the Glass Art, not at that one, but at the Washington Glass Studio for the art at Motiva. I took pictures when I was there participating, and I never sent them to you, so I need to send them to you.
Thank you. We were so glad that you could be part of that.
Will you be doing any additional outreach in Greenbelt East?
Did you have something specific in mind?
I don't have anything specific in mind. It's a priority. It's a big city, so we're doing a lot of outreach in the West.
We are moving our RACU operations over to Schramm Hills Park. So that'll be our first foothold over there. And if the expansion of the Artful Afternoons model works in Greenbelt West, we're trying to get that one up on its legs. We have looked at Schramm as another potential site for that as well. So if the instructors are sufficiently available, we'd love to keep expanding that program. We do see that potential.
Hope so, yeah. Council? Other questions? Yes, Jenny.
I just wanted to comment that I appreciate that you guys brought back the circus camp, because that's a Greenbelt tradition, and I know that folks miss that, and it's really great that we're going to be bringing up the next generation of unicycle riders. Very excited.
Very important.
Very
I'm so glad you see it that way.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a
Exciting.
function
So
of the
thanks.
availability of Greg May, whose career path has taken him in a variety of directions, but they seem to lead back to Greenbelt. So lucky us, we had a great time with him during spring camp, and his enrollment is looking great for the 2 sessions of summer camp that we have him for as well. So thank you, and we're excited about that too.
Okay. Any other questions from council on the arts programs?
Mayor Jordan, I'm absolutely shocked you did not ask about public art.
Well, I was thinking. So, public art. So, working with the Arts Advisory Committee, it's been years since we, designated a number, 10 areas around the city that the Arts Advisory Board thought would be suitable for public art. So, I'm just wondering if there's been any motion towards actually doing some additional installation.
Yeah, you bet. First of all, I'd like to point out that public art is indoors as well as outdoors. And we have installed several pieces in public buildings, including right here at the Greenbelt Municipal Building, where Kathy's wonderful piece that was donated is in the hall. We've installed some work at the Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center and also at the Greenbelt Youth Center and the Community Center. So work has been going up, and with the repainting having just been completed at Spring Hill Lake, we're looking forward to bringing over some new art. for that as well. So you'll be hearing more about that. And in terms of outdoor public art, that includes performance as well as visual art. We were very excited to have Creative Kids Camp come back after the pandemic and actually perform in Roosevelt Center. I think we created a lot of cherished memories in doing that. It was wonderful to be able to bring that show right to the community. And of course, we are working, as the Mayor Pro Tem pointed out, we're working on some outdoor public, visual public art as well. Very exciting. We had 3 community workshops at the Washington Glass School, which is the entity that received the commission to do the project for Motiva. So great strides have been made already on that. And I'm also in discussion with Ian Black regarding the Greenbelt Square project, because one of the things that we have been interested in exploring and through the advocacy of the council in encouraging our real estate developers to incorporate public art as part of the environment that they're creating for residents and for the city as a whole. Thank you so much for doing that. They're putting forward some funding, leveraging some of my time and resources to work with them to develop the call, do the artist selection, develop contracts and so forth, and then be able to go forward with these. So we're further along with Motiva, and we're right at the beginning with the Greenbelt Square project as well. So pursuing a couple along those lines. And then we've got our eye on the Greenbelt Station property as well. We've been very much in contact with that and sort of watching how the visioning process played out in the community with that. The residents identified some functional amenities that are needed as a top priority. So I'm deferring, to my colleagues on that to help meet those needs and standing by in the wings, ready to move forward as soon as we're able to get to that item on the punch list for that location as well.
Thank you. Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, that reminded me that something else that I feel like has come up fairly regularly is the idea of murals. And so that's something just to bring up. I think, I know that it sounds like there used to be some in some of the underpasses. I know that can be a little bit challenging with graffiti. I feel like the other place that there's that lovely big white wall by the basketball courts by the youth center that seems like it would be a really good place for a mural.
Yeah, thank you for keeping an eye out, for opportunities. That there certainly is a lot of potential for future projects, and we are excited about moving toward those. Greenbelt does have a public art policy, and the policy does require that we prioritize maintenance of our existing collection over commissioning of new work. So one of the other things that I'm working on right now with Terry Ruby in planning, and I know this came up at her work session as well, is to try to address the concerns about the base of the mother and child. We're having difficulty finding a contractor for that job, but I'm going to see if I can assist with that. So that would then kind of by necessity take precedence in the use of the existing funds that we've been saving up in the public art piggy bank in the city budget. So once we know what that number is, when we have a qualified contractor to be able to move on that, we'll know what resources we have available and can scale the next project accordingly.
Councilmember McKinney.
Wanted to know if there were any programs or camps that focused on like digital media arts, because I know like that's also a connection with youth workforce development. There's just lots of jobs in that place. So I'm wondering if we are creating sort of a pipeline for that.
Yes, thank you very much for your question. We partner with Greenbelt Access Television throughout the year to do classes, and that includes some summer camp classes in conjunction with Creative Kids Camp. We offer programs in video production and digital animation, as well as stop motion. So yeah, through both camp and regular school year classes, folks have access to that. And actually, in our partnership with the Friends of the Greenbelt Theater as well, they do some animation and filmmaking as part of their educational outreach as well. So through both these partnerships, access is provided.
Ms. Pope.
Yeah, we did an animation course at Spring Hill Lake Elementary. I think it was before COVID. It must have been. And that was really cool. And they did it with, I believe, they were trying it out with fifth graders. And it was very interesting, but then it was like one time and it kind of, fizzled out. But of course, I think COVID came in between. Do you know if there's anything like this in the pipelines, maybe that we could bring that back?
specifically in the school?
It was in the school, they came into the school, yeah.
Oh,
Because the problem for us is the transportation to
right.
bring the kids, so it is something that,
We're not doing programs currently in the school, so I couldn't really speak to that. Our programs are focused at the centers.
I just thought maybe you heard, knowledge of anything, so
Yeah,
but I'm
Silky,
gonna
if-
go back and ask because
Yeah.
I think it was really a great project and it just came to a halt at that point, so. Thought it would be
It might be
interesting.
worth checking with Gate.
Yeah, I think
Because
I'm
they
gonna-
they're doing an animation program actually coming up here at the theater. So they might have some offerings.
I'm gonna go
or
check
a
with that
thing like
because it was great and it was kind of just coming out and then it stopped, unfortunately, so.
To just one additional point on other points of access to the digital arts, we have included their claymation workshops in our Parents Night Out program and done friends and family workshops, which are all ages. So you can take an animation class, just saying.
Any other questions from council on the arts? Take a couple of questions from the public. Mr. Orleans was first.
Thank you. I'd like to return to the administrative budget discussion.
Sir,
I am.
you certainly can, but let me point out that we're kind of moving along. And as I said at the beginning of the work session, if you could limit your questions one question at a time, and on the subject being currently discussed, we'd all appreciate it. But please go ahead.
I had my hand raised when you moved to arts, before you moved to arts. I am frequently confused and often ignorant, and based on the response I got to my question from before, apparently I'm both. The last named occupational recreation therapist that I know of was Becky Suffin. Do I understand that the response as since Ms. Suffin departed from Greenbelt's employ, there was another named therapeutic recreation director, and that person resigned after a year? Do I understand that correctly? And if
that-
that's the case, what's the problem we're having with retaining therapeutic recreation directors?
Well, Miss Sutphin was here for about 16 years, and there was somebody after her who had a child and decided to stay at home with the child, and she resigned. And prior to Miss Sutphin, it was Karen Hazley. So we've had 3 over the last 30 years or so, and Karen worked here 28 years. Yeah.
So actually, Mr. Schachter is next.
Leon Schachter, 90 Parkway. I apologize, but I also want to very briefly go back to the admin section. I also had my hand up before you moved on. Several weeks ago, Ms. Pope articulated a need for additional transportation for seniors to go on field trips. And we were told, I was told to wait until this meeting to bring it up. And I noticed that under the admin section, there is a line item for vehicles and fuel. So I thought that I could hang it on that. Basically, I'm speaking only on my personal capacity. I was only recently appointed to the Senior Advisory Board, so I cannot speak for the entire board, but I can speak for myself that these field trips are immensely appreciated by senior citizens. You just don't know until you get there what it means when you can no longer drive yourself anywhere. It's a huge boost to lifestyle that is well worth whatever minimal amount of money you need to spend on providing an additional bus. I'm not real sure the numbers, but I think right now the problem is there's only capacity for 8 people, to the best of my recollection. That just doesn't get the job done, and I think staff is trying to, as I heard them at the last meeting of that group, is trying to be artful and thoughtful and thinking about possibly going to a lottery system. But, you know, a lottery just doesn't lift one's spirits very much, especially when you're among the losers. So again, it means a tremendous thing for life, to be alive, for senior citizens to be able to go on these trips. So, and again, I want to just end by saying thank you for indulging me by not getting this out quickly enough, getting my hand up quickly enough. But, and I'm speaking only on my personal behalf. Next time, hopefully, I'll be able to speak for the group.
Thank you. Thank you. Chief Davis?
On page 210, under other, line item 34, other services, is there a reason why that's gone up quite a bit?
Other services. It was budgeted for 13,000, 2024, came
Then
in
it's
at
gone to
16.5.
16, and now it's
Now
going
it's
to be
up at
proposed 19.
The 34 account includes our instructors who work on a contractual basis rather than an hourly basis. And with the full-time visual arts coordinator in place now, we've been able to expand our class offerings considerably. So that is primarily the source of that
Okay.
expense.
Also, it might be good to have as an extra item down revenue sources, other grants, because I just automatically assume that the Maryland State Arts Council included all the grants we got from them, not just annual. So maybe you need a line item, because your department is very good at getting other grants, and you should get credit for that. Also, on page 211, I noticed that, and you have a very good graphic there, but it sounds like the studios and exhibitions, the arts events and seasonal events, the number of attendees is continuing to decline. Do you have any idea why? Because those events are really, really special and very original and very unique, and yet we don't seem to be getting the attention that it deserves.
I'd have to go back and compare specific numbers, but the numbers are actually pretty good. And we were able to bring back, some of it is performance-based, and we've been bringing back our number of performances that we are able to produce since COVID. So those numbers are on the rise.
Mhm.
The attendance has been very good at the Artful Afternoons and the meetups. Sparkle Mart is holding steady. So one of the dips is the trips that the gentleman was discussing, the absence of those. So there's a little bit of a dip there, but the other sources of attendance are going well. Exhibitions in particular has taken a little bit of a hit because that's programming that I typically do personally, and with the other things that are going on, I've had less time available to actually program those.
And also, sometimes it's difficult to account for the exact number of people
Sure.
that are there. It's just that compared to last year, for instance, the arts events were listed as having 6,624 people, but this year, or two years ago, and last year was 4,753. So that's
Oh.
why I've noticed that there's a decline.
Right. Well, back into COVID, actually, there's an inverse curve where we were doing a lot online. So those numbers were inflated. They were much higher than they typically are because programs were online and the reach was so much more extensive. And once we put something up online, it was online longer. So this is numbers of people who actually came out to an event versus people who were able to log on. And we're so glad we were able to do that. But of course, we were reaching bigger audiences in the height of COVID in that
makes
sense.
sense.
Yeah.
And I actually have the 2011 minutes with all the listed art, which I will give to you.
Councilmember McKinney?
I just wanted to follow-up question, because I thought it interesting, and Ms. Davis bringing that up from before. So is there a benefit to having both in-person and online still continuing, even though we're not in COVID anymore? Even from an accessibility standpoint, there might be some people that want to do online learning when it comes to arts?
We do offer our Outward Bound workshops, both in person and on Zoom. We are not getting the demand for Zoom. And it's a shame in a way, because we saw that among those taking advantage of them, like you say, it increased accessibility in so many ways, and also brought distant friends and family members together, because they were, regardless of where somebody lived, they could sign up with their cousin across the country to take a class together. And we were so excited about being able to do that. So it was great, but then Zoom fatigue set in. Sorry, viewers at home. But yeah, so it may bounce back, and like with the artists in Sparkle Mart, we did an all online version of that, and they were grateful and they were done. And it's also actually a tremendous amount of work to produce the programs online. So we definitely don't have the capacity to do all the things we were doing in both formats, but we're certainly flexible and able to tweak and do some things online and some things in person. Again, being responsive to the demands of our patrons and what they're looking for at any given time.
Okay, we have one more question from Mr. Hartman before we move on. Please.
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Garden Way. Couple of things. One, for public art, I know that for years I've been looking outside the community center near the trash enclosure, and there's a beautiful tree trunk there. And I'm wondering if there's any plans to do something with that, carving it or making something out of it or whatever. But it was wrapped at one point, I think.
Yeah.
But what's the plan?
Exactly. Yes, we have done something with that on public art, and you do remember it somewhere in your thoughts there. We yarn bombed it with Rachel Cross, one of our artists in residence. That was fun times with the harness and the cherry picker. Thank you, Public Works Department, who make all sorts of shenanigans possible. So it was beautiful. It was temporary. The tree trunk is very badly rotted out at this point, so I don't think it has a whole lot of art potential left in it, but it had its shining moment for sure.
Great. The other thing is, the risk of sounding like a broken record, the Arts and Entertainment District, I know we had looked at that several years ago, and it was decided not to pursue it, I guess because of tax kinds of stuff. But I would like to wonder about whether that's still percolating alive at all, or also we've recently, last couple of years, heard about the Main Street project. I don't know if you had anything to do with that, but do you think that there's a chance that we might discuss the Arts and Entertainment District again soon?
We can always take a look at that, and what Mr. Hartman is referring to is a program through the Maryland State Arts Council. We did look at that in great depth. There are administrative burdens and costs that go along with participating in it, and it was our assessment that those outweighed the potential benefit of it to the creative practitioners. The inclination of the Arts Advisory Board in recent years has been, the term isn't trademarked. You can just call yourself that. So if to the extent that it is an effort at promoting public awareness of areas of town as cultural centers, there's nothing to stop us from doing that. And they've advocated for that vociferously in terms of our city signage and other promotions, wanting to, and we supported that, for instance, with the fall studio open house that we did, where we had open houses concurrently at multiple cultural facilities in the center to promote that cross traffic and the general awareness of the density of cultural resources in the area. So we're very much on board with that as a public messaging strategy. I'm still not sure that the state program, from a cost benefit standpoint, would be worth it to us, but the state has also changed. There were some benefits that they used to restrict to their arts districts, which are no longer restricted to groups with that designation. So that's very helpful. So I feel like we have access to some of the resources that were heretofore, connected with that program.
And just one last thing, I want to compliment. I don't know if this is under your jurisdiction, but the shows that Chris Cherry puts on, those are like phenomenal. I only have one suggestion, is that more chairs could be put in the auditorium. I know that staff has said, well, we're using all the chairs we have for that, but I know that it's always standing room only, and it's, unless you move quickly, you're sold out. And they're such wonderful shows, and Chris is such a talented writer and lyricist, and maybe buy some more chairs.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your support and enjoyment and attendance. At the shows, I couldn't agree more about the quality of those performances and the experiences of the performers that Chris is able to provide with his team. One of the factors with the seating is that we want all our guests to have a good sight line. So we're limited in part by the risers. We have been able to invest in a new set. Again, that's part of where some of our Arts Relief Grant money went, is to replace the audience risers so we can provide the best experience for our guests as possible.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your good work.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, let's move on to the Aquatic and Fitness Center. That's pages 212, 213.
Mr. Parks.
Mr. Parks, welcome. It's good to see you on dry land.
That's what you look like with clothes on.
So, we've been talking, we've been talking quite a bit about the issues with the pool, and that's really very much on our minds. And, with Greg and Public Works and all of us kind of working together to address the challenges to the lining of the pool and the structure of the building. So, I don't know if you want to talk any more about that, but
Yeah.
So I'm just concerned that the timing and with our experience in working with contractors, it seems like even if we set a goal of starting in a certain month, it's just really hard to predict when those contractors are going to actually show up. So I don't know what to do about that. But
I think we're working toward maximizing what we have. So if we're shut down for a period of time, we're going to try to maximize the usage of the outdoor pool, possibly opening earlier, staying open later. You run into weather conditions, hypothermia, because that's the big thing. University of Maryland opens the third week of April every year for Maryland Day, but their pool is heated. Putting a heating system in for a one-time project, it's not feasible.
is that something that's you could actually rent some sort of a heating unit instead of buying it, leasing it?
We got nowhere to put it. So we just recently replaced the filter, which is, I do believe, was the original one from when they did the original renovation. It lasted that long. The new filter, it's a little bit longer and bigger, but there's no room down there to accommodate a heater needed for the size of that pool. We have 3 units that do the indoor pool, and it's comparable in the amount of water that it's 190,000 inside and it's 190 and some more change outside. So
heating up a pitcher of water in the microwave and pouring it in there, that's not going to help.
as we tell folks, this is not your bathtub at home.
The outdoor pool has its own pump room, and it's not as big as the indoor pool. Yeah.
Hey, well, specifically looking at the budget that you've submitted, it's balanced about the same as it was last year. Mr. Roberts, please go ahead.
I assume you're not going to be using the heaters for the indoor pool while you're doing the work on it, right?
No, basically everything should be lowered to a minimum. I got to keep the water at a certain temperature, and I got to keep the chemical balance, so I can't let it turn green.
So you will be using it, but not to where
It probably won't be kept at 83 degrees. It'll probably be lowered so that it's not running as often.
Because it seems like you could go ahead and with a little bit of plumbing, you could probably use that to heat the outdoor pool.
The distance from the pump room outside is too great.
Huh?
The distance from the pump room on the indoor pool is on the opposite side of the building than the outdoor pool.
Well, that's why they make backhoes and diagonal boring and stuff.
I think we should be getting an assessment over the next couple weeks that we're going to answer a lot of questions for us.
So
We're not sure yet.
Would
So
be-
once we get that, we'll be able to figure out what we need to do.
expecting that in May.
I hope so.
We should have it in May.
Okay, so looking at the budget itself, it's pretty flat, which is a good thing. It just seems like insurance and maintenance and chemicals are going up. Insurance is going up across the board. Looks like a fee-based revenue is up. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's from.
So there was an influx of patrons over the past year due to parking planning changing the hours of their facilities. They were closing a lot earlier. Some of them had different hours than they normally would have. So folks would leave there and come over to us. That's why you see an influx in a rise in the fees, the money that we actually made.
So that's a temporary thing. That's not probably.
No, I don't think so, because a lot of those folks bought passes.
Oh, okay.
With the restrictions we have on the weekends, that's when we were seeing the increase in numbers. And then with our classes going on, we were able to bring back a lot of classes that we didn't have. Homeschool lessons came back. We were able to add back the daily or the aquasize class 3 days a week. And then swim lessons came back in the evening, plus adding Aqua Fitness and Aquamania. Those classes.
Aquamania?
Aquamania.
What is that?
It's a high energy class that I expect to see you at 6:15 tomorrow morning.
Be there. So it's Tuesdays and Thursdays?
It's on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay.
Probably already full for the session.
Oh, no.
Popular, and then when they move outside in the summer months, sometimes we get complaints from the apartment complex for being too loud.
Vigorous.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it is.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I know a couple of years ago we were definitely having a problem getting lifeguards. Now I know we've increased the pay rate for them. How are we doing in terms of recruiting and retaining lifeguards?
So we're at that cycle now where we're starting to lose our senior staff. They grow up, they find real jobs, and they move on. So over the past 6 months, we've probably lost 5 key pool managers that filled a lot of hours, but we're replacing them. Some of the new kids are coming in from Roosevelt, looking for ways to make money. So we're increasing. Ann actually did a promotion. I forgot the name of the website.
So we advertise all of our part-time seasonal positions through a couple of different entities. It's called Handshake. It's the, I guess, job platform at the University of Maryland. And then there's another platform. It's the Community College Consortium. So we spread the word among all the universities about our job options, and it's brought in a few new applicants. So that and the news review and all the other strategies we use. So.
Do we work directly with I guess that maybe the schools wouldn't let us advertise directly.
So they have career fairs. Cynthia goes to those for all the aquatic positions. And Eleanor, we've been to Roosevelt. That's our biggest feeder right there. Also with the swim team, they have a lot of kids that are starting to age out. The only problem with that is they're swimming during the summer, the times that we need them. Meets are on Saturday. That's our biggest. So, but we get them during the school year, and once the season, it's only for a month. So, June is great. July stinks. August is great. So
We ever get any interns from the sports management program over at the University of Maryland?
no, the only interns, we don't get interns. We get community service folks in need of hours. When we use them in the office, some of them are actually employees that work for us already, and they just need to get their community service hours in. I'm a graduate of Bishop McNamara, so we use, I contact them a lot of times to get volunteers for activities because they need their hours.
Hey, you mentioned the swim team. So how are relations coming along with the swim team and just the working out the, there's some challenges with the hours there for a while. Everything good?
Yeah, we're back on schedule. When COVID hit, there were a lot of restrictions that that were in place that we just couldn't bend on. Especially since our number one goal was the citizens of Greenbelt. Now that COVID's gone, well, it's not gone, but now that we've moved forward, we're working a lot better with them in regards to they've been restored to their normal hours of operation. So, and it fits into our program schedule. So,
Council Member McKinney.
I took part in the aquatic class that was on Monday and Wednesday evening, and it was awesome. It was pretty well received, and there were a lot of people in it. I'm wondering, do you have the demand to expand that, or is it based on trying to schedule around the free swim and stuff like that?
it's based on trying to schedule around the free swim and the fact that the instructor is actually one of my coordinators. So Tuesday, Thursday mornings, he comes in early. He has an early schedule, and then Monday, Wednesday, he has a later schedule to compensate the hours. So that's part of his schedule.
Yeah, you know, there's so much pressure on the indoor pool, even the outdoor pool. Stephen puts together a puzzle of, you know, lap swimmers and free swimming and classes. It gets really complicated, but Stephen and his staff are able to pull that together. We wish we had a bigger pool, but you know, we have what we have.
This pool is always full. It's great.
Yeah.
Hey, Council Member Niesel.
Hi, thanks. I was just wondering, I know that you at the community centers moved to a different payment system. Did that transfer to you at the pool as well? And do you have any sort of online registration for your classes?
It's the credit card system and the rec track work at the pool also. The problem we have with online registration and classes are the fact that we get overzealous parents that will put their kids in the wrong class. And with the checks and balances that we have in place, we can't catch them all. And when you get to the first day of class and the classes are full, and Johnny is a beginner one swimmer who has been put in the swimmer class, I got nowhere to put him. So I'm sorry, we can't take your class. So I know it can be an inconvenience, but for safety and trying to keep everybody and get everybody in a class that they're appropriate to be in, it's something that I'm sticking to my guns.
No, that makes sense.
And
Thank
then
you for the explanation.
the other thing is like our and that's the same for our adult classes. But the water exercise classes, I'm working with Andrew so that I can at least show what we have open, because as you said, it was packed. Aquamania and Aqua Fitness are our most popular classes. Deep water, they're treading water, but they have enough people in it that I can still offer the class. The Aqua Size class is geared more towards seniors, and it's in the middle of the day. So that's who I get for those classes. So, yep.
Jay?
Excuse me. I noticed that you guys are exploring the feasibility of swim lessons to the Springer Lake Recreation Center after school program. Would that be, would those kids be bused here to the center, or are you exploring, possibly working with Franklin Park to use their pool for swim lessons?
We're trying to figure out the logistics right now. Working with Frank and Brian, and then also the school system trying to figure out how we can get them there, or if it's going to be a shuttle system, or. But right now, we're just trying to figure out the logistics.
Transportation is a barrier for us for everything that we do. And we've had talks with the city manager about trying to knock that barrier down, so.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's just how you would transport all of those kids because it's not a small number. We don't have a bus.
Yeah, Ann started a program in the summertime where she brings the camp kids over to the pool on Fridays, and we use the city connector bus. Where we used to have 2, we're down to 1. It's going to be a little bit more challenging this year, and it's going to take a little bit more time. But certainly, transportation is a main barrier for us.
Councilmember Pope.
No, it's fine. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Hey, I was looking at page, was it 215 with the performance measures? So I was wondering with RecTrack or with your own spreadsheets or whatever you use, hey, it's just in terms of performance measures, trying to think of some other things that might be helpful. I don't know. It seems like patron retention is something that we really don't need help with. If anything, we have too many people trying to get into the pool. But it would be interesting to see, how many are lapsed or what the turnover, the churn is every year. So I don't know if those are performance measures or numbers you could start to look at.
I mean, how many are lap swimmers and how many are there to play?
I think
how many
holders.
current
Like how many
taking
renewals?
classes or current have memberships and who renews and whatnot. Just looking at trying to get meaningful performance measures other than just numbers.
You're looking for like how many passes were renewed in a year, or RecTrack can help with that. Yeah, we can look at pulling some data like that.
We can include that into performance measures moving forward. Yeah.
Council, any other questions or thoughts?
I have a quick question.
Please.
As far what the passes here you have here for residents and is that like individual passes? Is it family passes? Is it individuals? Like there are 1,000 individuals or there's 1,000 passes, which could be a family pass. It could be a.
So it's individual passes, adult, kids, but it's also a family pass. But a family pass only counts as 1.
Okay, because that's a lot of passes.
Yes.
I mean that's really a large number, very robust number of passes that we're passing out. Or that we're selling. So that's really great to see. But so many residents, and even non-residents are using our facilities.
Yeah, I guess every time someone comes, they scan in, so you actually would be able to kind of see how many, if somebody has a membership or a pass, how many times they actually use it, which would be interesting to see.
Yes, Emmett, yours, and we'll check his and you check mine.
Yes,
please.
Emmett, I'm going to check your numbers. And
We'll include council as performance measures on how often you visit the Aquatic and Fitness Center.
I was gonna say, I took but this was pre-pandemic, but I took that Aquasize class, and it was when you were doing one that was at like 7:30, I think it started. In the morning, and not the middle of the day when I was the youngest person in the Aquasize class by a good margin, but it was fun. I enjoyed it.
So do we still have some in the evening?
yes, we have.
I think that's the Aquamania.
We have Aquamania in the evening.
Or is that when?
Excuse me. Aquamania is in the morning. Aqua Fitness is in the evening, Tuesdays or Monday and Wednesday, and then we have a deep water class on Tuesday, Thursday.
Start at 6 or something, right? Like in
Correct.
the evening?
Yes.
See, Monday and Wednesdays, I'm like, I was there today though, but not in the water.
Water. That's Tuesday, Thursday.
Finally, I think you said something about installing new AED and safety equement.
Yes, our AED's life cycle came to an end, so we had to replace. Well, no, it didn't die. They still work. They're still sitting in my office. I'm still waiting for them to pick up. So we replaced the community center, Spring Hill Lake, the youth center, Public Works, and then we added 2 more to this building through Stryker. So those were replaced. We did receive a credit for the ones that we already had. And then in regards to training, the training remained the same. Camp staff does their training. The facility staff does theirs. We incorporated training for the front desk and the fitness attendants, first aid, CPR, AED, for those that could handle it. Because the lifeguards are the first responders.
Yes, yeah.
But if something happens in the fitness wing, the front desk staff can assist if necessary. So,
Right. Yeah, very good. I just thought I'd ask about that. Let's see, we've got a couple of questions. Jay Davis and then Michael Hartman.
Jay Davis, Greenbelt East. On page 212, I must admit that I misread the middle number because it says 17,070. And I thought that was daily admission rates. And I went, how did we get 17,000 people into the outdoor pool or indoor pool? So
That's tight.
I figure what you need there is estimated or total daily admission rates. I mean, I think that would make it a little clearer. This first question I have, though, is have we hired a personal trainer? I went last year when I was having back problems. I really wanted a personal trainer. There were no personal trainers available. Do we have them now?
we actually have two. One was just brought on recently. Their advertisement and is on the board, and it's on the website.
Okay.
So they are taking clients. We didn't do them for a while due to COVID, and then we were finally able to bring them back just because of the health concerns that they had.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, but they're back.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm also glad that you're looking at offering the free swim lessons to Spring Hill Lake children, because the facts is that drownings among minorities is much higher than among white children, because white children have better access sometimes to swim lessons. So I'm glad that you're looking at that, and I hope that you can work that out. I also looked at your customer survey, and the thing that it's every year, the glaring thing: the water's too hot, no, the water's too cold. The air is too hot, no, the air is too cold. But the main thing that really struck me was the number of complaints about maintenance, whether it was in the various rooms and so forth. And I know that we've tried different cleaning groups to come in, and I'm just wondering if it's time to look at that again, because that seemed to be a very strong complaint.
So, in regards to cleaning, they have come up with some new equipment that allow them to get into areas where there are people, it's occupied. In the past, we ran into complaints regarding, they're hosing down the locker room and there's people in there trying to take showers.
Yeah.
They've now come up with some new machines that we're able to use during the day that allow them to not interfere with the patrons as it was in the past.
Okay.
Housekeeping, they do what they can do, but like I said, we've increased the number of people coming into the facility. So trying to keep a facility clean while people are going through the facility is very difficult.
Especially when you have 17,000 of them in the day. Yeah.
That's daily admission. You're correct.
Well, total for the whole summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Hartman.
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Gardway. I'm wondering, have you ever explored the possibility or the practicality of solar panels heating the outdoor pool? You need about half the area, the surface of the pool for the solar panels, which would go very nicely actually on the roof of the indoor pool. And I'm wondering, because the costs would be paid back fairly shortly, Department of Energy really suggests that as a viable alternative for heating pools and saving money in the long run. Have you considered that?
To the best of my knowledge, we have not. That pool roof was replaced about 6-7 years ago.
5-6 years.
Yeah, about 5-6 years ago. It's a retractable roof. I'm not sure solar panels would work on that. It's
not if it's retractable.
Yeah, it's something we can look into and talk to Public Works about. I'm just not that knowledgeable on that topic.
Okay, just thought I'd ask.
Retracted the roof lately? Is that actually, do you do that from time to time?
During the summertime, the condensers are turned off, and when the pool temperature gets, the air temperature gets to 90 degrees, we open the roof. It's a greenhouse, so we try to open it as often as we can, but with weather and pollen and all the other nasty stuff that comes in through the screens at the top. We don't open it during the winter or the fall, but once they turn the condensers off, we go ahead and do it.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for letting us plunge deeply into the Aquatic and Fitness Center budget. Thanks for your good work.
Thanks, Stephen.
Yes, yes. There was a dreading water. One class is
Made a
dreading
splash.
water.
Did his homework before he came here.
Okay, hey, let's go to the Greenbelt Museum. That's on page 217. Hello. It's nice to have you with us. So, looking through the numbers in the budget, electricity is up. Insurance is up.
Do you want to introduce the museum director?
Who, me?
Someone.
Okay, well, it's Megan Searing-Young.
Hello.
Hello. It's nice for you to be here with us. Hey, so much anticipation, looking forward to the day when we're able to move into the new wing at 10A, I guess. So how are things looking with that? On the fundraising side, I think we still need about $200,000.
That's correct. Yeah. This was a good year as far as fundraising goes for the municipal bond that we were awarded from the state of Maryland. And I have to thank lots of people for help with that, including the grants coordinator. So with that, that was a big bump up. The board is starting to look at private foundation money. That's not an area that we've looked at very much. And eventually we really will get to the public face of the campaign. I feel like I say that every year. But you really need to have the majority of your funds raised before you move to the public campaign, public part of the campaign. So we will be reaching out to everyone here in Greenbelt. Hopefully,
this table.
Everyone at this table, hopefully very soon. So yeah, it's a little bit of a difficult, still a difficult climate to fundraise in some ways, particularly in the museum field. So we're not alone in this project taking a little while to complete. We are, in addition to looking at foundations, we do have materials that were generated by the fundraising consultant that we worked with. So sort of broadening where we're looking in terms of individuals in the sort of greater metropolitan area.
Seems like we should be pretty close. We've gotten more than half. And
Yes,
so the board's
absolutely.
looking at getting 2/3 in before they go to open it up to a public campaign.
Correct, yes. And as far as movement in terms of the getting permits and things like that, I did have a meeting with the Greenbelt Homes Incorporated Architectural Review Committee, and they were very positive about the project. They had some concerns and requested a slightly different design for the windows of the addition. So I've contacted the architect, and first question is, will that incur additional fees? And second question is, can he make those changes? They're not major, it's aesthetic changes. They wanted them to look more like typical GHI windows.
So, in talking about the design and the actual building itself, it sounds like the design is complete to maybe 90%.
It is,
right?
About that.
Thinking that once construction begins, will it impede the operations of the current side 10B?
Yeah, that we're not sure about. It depends, I think, how it's set up. So it's something that I've been talking about with Greg and trying to figure out if we can keep the museum house itself 10B open. The main issue is there will be no accessible restroom if we have 10A shut down for construction and demo and construction. So that's a challenge. I mean, we operated for many years with just the upper floor restroom, but it's really terrible to have someone with mobility issues come in and have them say that they have to go to the community center or the library. I mean, that's pretty far. So that's somewhat of an issue. And of course, noise and dust and things like that may also affect. Now, the only change that we anticipate right now to 10A is alteration of the HVAC system, but that's the only thing that will be happening in that space. We also do hope, back to fundraising, that once there's activity there, that will be a signal, a strong signal that there's activity and that we're moving forward with it. So we're going to have one of those big thermometers with the, the fundraising total.
So this is your first year. You've moved over to the recreation department. These people are pretty difficult to deal with. I mean, come on.
On the contrary, it's been wonderful.
Did we do?
It's been really great. Yeah, we've already been able to have some help for some of our bigger events. We had help around the holidays and a few other events. So it makes such a difference to not rely on it's the only staffers are, of course, myself and Sheila Maffei Tuthill, who's our education volunteer coordinator, but she's only at 15 hours a week. So and of course we rely heavily on our volunteer corps, but sometimes it's really great to have a part-time staffer come and help. And it's so far, it's a godsend so far, so.
Yeah. Now, we still have the exhibit in the community center.
That's correct.
And does that rotate from time every 2 or 3 years? That changes around.
It had been on a schedule of changing every 5 years. The one that's in there now, the Leonard Thomas Strauss exhibition, has been in there longer than that. And one of the reasons for that is those exhibits, even though it's a small space, that exhibit costs between $10,000 and $15,000 to put together. So it's fundraising, and with fundraising for 10A, I just haven't had a lot of available capacity to fundraise for that space. We could put in something sort of much smaller and less ambitious, which we have talked about doing, and maybe something that we want to pursue. Right now, that room has been a flexible space, and so when the rec department comes to us and says they need it for a space for campers if they're sick and are waiting for a parent to come get them, they can be in there. More recently, I think the rec department used it for a little bit of a storage area for their big production. So it's a flexible room, but we do hope that it will continue to be exhibition space and that we will do changing exhibitions there.
Yeah, I was wondering, now that there's one museum and recreation all one together. So what about actually selling some of the museum merchandise inside of the community center? Are we doing that?
We haven't explored that. That would require a point of sale system and staffing, of course. And right now, the museum merchandise is mostly at 10A, set up in a little store area. And Greg, would this be a good time to talk about the switch? You'll see that line zeroed out in the budget. It's pretty far down. Merchandise.
Merchandise, yeah.
Yeah, so that's been zeroed out. Greg and I talked it through, and I went over, thank you, the numbers with him. I have it somewhere in this book. Thank you. And in the sort of alignment of roles between FOGM and Friends of the Greenbelt Museum and the city's responsibilities, all of the revenue generating went to the city. So that includes walking tour fees, admission fees, and gift shop merchandise. The problem with that was those were years when obviously it was during the pandemic, because that started in fiscal year 21, I believe. So it took away all of FOGM's income except for memberships, which also plummeted during that time. So Greg and I talked it through and thought that it made sense to shift that income back to FOGM. And it's not, once gross, the gift shop sometimes hits, $4,000, $4,500, but after you take out the cost of goods, it's like $1,500 to $2,000. So I don't think it's a significant hit to the city's budget. And most people, because it happened that way for so long, most people think that they are supporting the nonprofit. So it made sense to do that. So
It makes sense. It just occurred to me that sometimes people visit the city and they're in the community center and it's not Sunday, but if there was some merchandise around like
Yes,
you've got at the
yes.
museum, people would probably buy it.
we'll definitely look into that, having a little mobile area where we could set that up.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I wondered, because one of the things I noticed was in the estimated tours, participants, visitors, is that because of anticipated construction on 10A?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's what we're hoping for, the construction, not hoping for the loss of visitation.
Right, but you sometimes I think, I mean, you have to go through the temporary lowering. I mean, I think also talking about the aquatic and fitness center, right? It's better to have the short-term decrease, the short-term closure, in order to have something better in the long run and have the facility that we ultimately want to have.
And I don't want anyone to have the impression that 10A is not being utilized. I mean, we're in there every Sunday. That's where we welcome visitors. We show our orientation film. We have supplies stored there for some of the special events that we do. It's in constant use, in addition to the first floor restroom, which is really great. So it's a very active, vibrant space, even though we haven't completed what we want to do there.
Yes, Councilmember Anise.
Hey, I have two questions. The first is that I see in here that you have a line item for storage fees. I know that storage space is at a premium in the city. Can you just tell me a little bit more about what is being stored where?
Absolutely. So it's sometimes yes, office expense. It is primarily offsite storage for the museum collection, which takes up a lot of space because there's a fair amount of furniture. The furniture in Greenbelt Homes was specifically made for these homes by the federal government, and then families could add it onto their month's rent if they wanted to purchase it. So I essentially have a duplicate of everything in the house, just in case one of those big trees goes down. Hopefully not, knock on wood. But that's, and also just things that have been given to the museum over the years that require specialized storage. So it's really premium, fine art quality storage is what they call it. Not all of it. The collection is sort of half and half like wood items, fabrics, are stored in a way that is curatorially appropriate. The other things, like we have extra glass light shades and things like that, are not in the climate controlled storage.
Do you anticipate that when 10A opens, you will be able to move some of that so we can cut those storage fees, or is that pretty much an expected expense?
Yeah, we will be pretty tight in 10A as it is, because those exhibits in the first floor, sort of a learning area for kids. The upstairs, it's a 3-bedroom, but the 1 bedroom is very small, so we're going to open that wall, and that will be a reading room for our archives. And then the other is a bedroom, basically, and there'll be 3 office spaces within that. So that's pretty much, it's
GHI, I totally
you know. So that's not to say that that fee could not go down if we want to go there, and at some point we do need to reevaluate the collection and reevaluate what's being stored there. There may be some things that can be responsibly deaccessioned. So yeah.
Second question is just about GHI's role in the care and keeping of 10A. I know that you were having a garage issue that was letting a lot of vermin in. What is being done to address these issues immediately? Because I saw that stayed open for a very long time, and that's just lending to it deteriorating more.
It is open. That's an original garage door, and it is stuck. It can't be opened. So what we want to do is take that garage door and move it over to the 10B garage. But that's kind of a specialized endeavor. So there's nothing, there's no collection items in there. There are some supplies. I know there's like a red wagon from Labor Day that we use sometimes, things like that. But there is an issue with us getting that to either go up, or it won't go up or down. So it's something, and I need to look and see whose responsibility that would be as far as GHI goes.
So I just know as a homeowner
Yeah.
with GHI, I would call them immediately if I were to face a problem like that. And I know that they would be very responsive. And I just worry that we have a city facility that is deteriorating before our eyes because those calls aren't maybe being made, or if they're being made, that they aren't being handled.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure that we had, I don't know, that we were all
I
on
will
the
fo-
same page there.
Yeah, thank you. I will follow up with GHI about that. And if they can help, hopefully, we can get that sorted out. Yeah, thank you for that.
Okay, please, Mr. Roberts, go ahead.
Well, you know, the roll-up door is not a complicated thing. You know, it's the door, it's a spring, and it's a couple of cables. So if GHI can't fix that, there are many roll-up door companies around that can fix it, and it wouldn't be an expensive thing to fix. I mean, I've done many of them myself, so it's not a big deal, and there's no reason it should be sitting there forever, inoperable, not be able to work, you know, for a period of time, because it's not a big deal, and
I'll
it
move it to
should
the
be
top of my
taken
list.
care of.
Yeah, I'll
Right.
move it to the top of my list. Thank you.
So-
I will.
Okay, yes, Ms. Gammon.
I just wanted to point out that the
Okay, we've got a couple of questions. Jake Davis.
Jay Davis, Greenbelt East. Just a suggestion on page 217 that under revenue sources, you also place grants and state bonds because you were very successful in getting a state bond and it should be shown in the book somewhere. I know that it's mentioned on page 218, but we should put it down with the revenue sources. Also, I understand, I mean, just when you were really picking up with all of the participation in the tours and the lectures and everything, and then now we may have to cut back. And that's, I was going to ask about the numbers going down, but you explained why those numbers might go down. Just for your information, I had a chance to visit Arthurdale in West Virginia. I'll talk to you about that. It's really quite interesting. It's the homestead project that was done during the New Deal, and it started in 1935. But
I think.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Quite interesting to see the houses and the little farm plots and things like that.
I spoke on a panel there for their 75th anniversary. They invited me to come down and talk about Greenbelt. So yes,
great.
It was really great. Yeah, they do a very good job of marketing themselves as Eleanor Roosevelt's town. So, which we do a little of as well.
Well, let's see, Mr. Orleans.
New Orleans. I like museums generally. I like specifically the Greenbelt Museum. I don't like that it's housed in one GHI home, much less do I like that it's going to be housed in two GHI homes. I don't know what the current budget or recent budgets are expending for purposes of premium storage. Certainly things that require premium storage should be stored at a premium cost. It would seem to me in the long run, it might well be better in Greenbelt's interest to allow those two homes to return for use as homes, and Greenbelt build something specifically intended to be a Greenbelt museum, which would replicate a traditional, typical GHI home, say on the top, and then beneath there could be premium storage, whatever temperature controlled would be necessary for such artifacts as require that. Although frankly, while I like museums, I think the content of the museum should be on display and not in storage. Now, maybe that's a rotating thing that museum curators have an understanding of periodic showing and then periodic not showing. I don't know, that's beyond me. But in any event, I think at some point Greenbelt should consider investing in the building of a Greenbelt museum, and allows those two homes to house people again. There's been back and forth between some people in Greenbelt and the library in recent months over what they're doing with the Tugwell collection, which I view as kind of an archives. The library system does not. In fact, now it's open. Anybody at any time of the day during library hours can go in. And while it's a much nicer room than the previous room, The content of the room is wholly unprotected. But in any event, the library system for some years made a point of saying that they're deaccessioning nothing. Well, of course, they deaccession quite a lot. And most recently, one copy of 3 books, the Warner Greenbelt book that was on the shelf in the Tugwell room, because they thought its condition was not great, and they deaccessioned it to the museum. Now, I understand that at some point, if this other house is open up as a visitor center, you're going to have one of the bedrooms converted into a study room, which is nice, although it shouldn't be at 10B or 10A. But that's nice. Do we have to wait for that copy of that Warner book, one, to be reconditioned so that it's appropriate, and such other collections you have, books and artifacts that will remain in the building? When will that be made available? Do we have to wait for the opening up of the visitor center?
Can I respond?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'm not sure which order to go in, but as far as the archives go, anyone is welcome to make an appointment with me to come by and see the museum's archives. We have a George Warner book, and we're going to get another one. In fact, I brought a copy of a form. I've been in touch with the person, Karen Loma, at who is she's the North Area Director for Prince George's County Memorial Library System, and so she has offered me some copies of the Greenbelt Cooperator and the George Warner book. So those will be coming to me. I don't have them yet, but there's a form that's just to demonstrate that the MOU that was established is working. This is exactly what's supposed to happen. If they want to deaccession something, they contact us. I will review what it is and accept it if we can. So, but anyone is welcome to make an appointment with me to come and access. And in fact, we have researchers come from all over the world
As
to
soon
do
as I can
research
find
in the
time, I
archives.
will pester you, Megan, for an appointment.
Yeah, anytime.
I will sit back down, but I'd like to stress that in the long run, those 2 homes should be homes and not the Greenbelt Museum. Greenbelt should invest in a building in the future where, among other things, we could store what's not being shown on site and not have to pay for storage. Thank you very much.
Just to answer that question, a lot of people come to museums for authenticity or for an authentic experience. So, part of the magic of the house is that people walk in and feel like they're stepping back in time. So I think to try to create that in an artificial setting might not be as effective.
I appreciate authenticity. I did say, Megan, that the museum could replicate the typical GHI home built in 1937.
We can discuss the semantics of that, but it makes a difference to be able to say this is the exact house that Greenbelters lived in. And also in terms of switching things out, I change the things on display seasonally. So at any given time of the year, you can come back and see different things. And to access things that are in storage, there is a cost associated with that, unfortunately. So if you want to go into the compact storage, the fine art storage, and remove things, there are fees that incurs sometimes. So,
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, and I think because I think it's fairly specialized. It's not just your average storage unit. It's not a I don't know, whatever brand name storage unit. It's something specialized. I was just going to comment that I enjoyed looking at the floor plans, and it's interesting to me that that 10A, like part of one of the bedrooms actually overlaps with part of 10B, which is just interesting to me thinking about how like my townhouse has designed compared to the way they did it back then to make one a little bit bigger and one a little bit smaller. I just found that very cool to be able to
puzzle pieces.
Yeah, and I think some of these plans are going to help me with my designing my Lego version of the museum that I've been working on. So
there are many
that's
of us
helpful.
Anxiously awaiting that.
Yeah.
And just a note about attendance, even though we are anticipating perhaps a drop in attendance, right now our Sunday visitation is going great. I mean, we have well over, we're approaching the 600 number for Sunday visitors in fiscal year 24, and we're not even in our busiest season yet. What has taken a dip are the booked tours from schools and universities. So we're not quite sure why that is. Transportation is an issue. The buses have become very expensive. But we are hoping to work on that and still have, still pursue groups to come, because we can absolutely do walking tours and other kinds of programming, even if the house is closed off for the renovation.
I wonder also if, and it's mostly going to be, I mean, I guess the challenge is that it's only going to be 10A. 10B will not be under renovation, but there may be some impacts. Just thinking about a video tour, but actually the part that you'd want to do a video tour of is the part that would still be available to be open potentially. It's just you don't have the welcoming space, and I know that's you know, that's really useful to be able to give people an orientation. Yeah.
Back to welcoming larger groups in the community center, which we used to do. It's just they get confused and look in their GPS and go there when they're supposed to come to the other and vice versa. So it's a challenge, but we will definitely pivot to walking tours and doing things in other areas throughout the city as well.
Any special programming, upcoming activities you want to quickly just highlight?
Yes, we have a lecture about women in World War II that's coming up on May 4th at 1 p.m. That's Donna Peterson. She's done one before, and she's going to do, this is a sort of part 2, and it's free in person in the community center. And it starts at 1 p.m. It's on a Saturday. We don't usually do our lectures on Saturdays, but we thought we would add on to this one a walking tour immediately following the lecture that Sheila will do, and that will focus more on how Greenbelt women themselves weathered World War II. Donna's highlighting a lot of people who are important historically, but not specifically Greenbelt related. So this tour will really focus on the ways that women survived World War II here in Greenbelt. So
That sounds very exciting.
Yes.
What time was that?
It's 1 p.m. on Saturday, May 4th. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, let's move to therapeutic recreation, page 219. What do we got? 219. Let's look at page 220. Of course, we got a lot of partnerships listed here. Revenues increased by $2,000. So just looking at page 220, I was wondering about line 19. That's increased quite a bit. And also that happened this year. It was budgeted at 78,000 and it came in at about 94,000.
Yes, that's to cover for our vacant full-time position. And so actually, line 1 will be lower than is listed there. That position's been vacant. So that will come in lower. It will actually come under budget in terms of our salary costs in this budget.
Okay, and also you have an explanation about line 58, the special programs. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, well, and this I think actually, so this is sort of the section that what Mr. Schachter was talking about falls under those tours for the seniors. Is there? I mean, it sounds like really the limitation is not having a big enough vehicle to take as many people who might like to go on the tour. So it really is the solution is to get another bus.
It's either that or we contract with a probably it would have to be a coach bus because it'd have to be handicap accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does seem like there could be, especially if we acquired another bus, that might help solve some of the problems we were talking about of transporting kids as well, because they would there might be some overlap in timing, but there might be different times when the kids in the camps need to be transported for swim lessons versus when the seniors are doing their.
We could work that schedule out if we had that resource.
Ms. Pope?
Yeah. So I was waiting for this just to come up, and I was going to ask about the transportation issue, because I think right now you can really just take 8 people on a trip. Is that it?
12, but that with a trip leader, so only 11 participants when we utilize the connection bus.
And I know that or at least at the last the meeting when I attended the last meeting, it was said that, I mean, I think you were there. So that a lot of people, they know to register right away. So it's one group who always gets the tickets, and some other people may not be as lucky. So there was this problem. So now I heard that you might go back to this lottery system. But of course, I mean, that doesn't fix the problem that you can only take 11 residents on one of those trips. So and I know that it's very more popular now, again, because COVID has finished. So we're going to have to find some solution to that. I don't know. You had some ideas that we add another. Don't we have 2 buses actually? Don't we have the Berman Heights bus, or
It's
not in working order?
Not in operations. We've discussed a couple options. One of them could include using the transit bus for individuals that are able to use that vehicle as a backup vehicle, secondary vehicle. There's some issues with the accessibility if we use a separate vehicle. I think we're going to need a multitude of vehicles to be able to resolve our issue. A larger bus, another bus similar, or using vehicles that can accommodate transportation that may not be required ADA requirements. So,
And I know the tour buses are the prices just skyrocketed. The prices are very expensive to rent those. I understand that.
Yeah, actually, we are using a tour bus for a Bowie Baysock trip because there was such popularity and the waiting list was very long. So we went ahead and spent the money and got a tour bus for that trip. But they are very expensive. If we continued to do that, it would destroy this line item. Yeah.
Right, and you want to keep the the affordability as well to be able to take those trips, which is very important. But I do hope that we can somehow, work on that and find a solution, at least to add a few more people to it instead,
Right.
We do too.
So let's just keep it on the top of the list. We pin it. Thank you.
I was wondering on page 220, so we've got the one grant from Maryland National Capital Park and Planning. Is that something we have to apply for every year, or does that automatically happen?
They're called project charges. There's some paperwork that needs to happen, but it's not too involved. It's something I handle from my office.
Are you looking for any other grants this year?
I don't think so.
Not in this budget.
No.
Councilmember McKinney.
Might be a really big long shot, but have you ever checked with the University of Maryland and their shuttles? I mean, because they have a huge fleet for the shuttle system, and I'm wondering if there might be a partnership that we could do with them.
It's an interesting idea.
Instead of charter.
Yeah, we might be able to look into that and figure out what that cost might be. Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Hey, looking at page 221. Oh, Miss Niesel.
Sorry, I just had a quick question. For the special programs, I see that for the most part in your budget, you have tried to cut corners or not cut funds where you can, and then pretty much copy the 2024 estimated. The one place where I see a big drop is the special programs, line 58 on page 220. And I see that you're doing that so you can gradually meet the demands, but if we've already seen that demand increase so much, are you budgeting too little for that?
Well, line 58, the 18,600. The Golden Age Club actually donated $3,600 so that we could buy some new padded chairs for the community center. So that was very thoughtful and much appreciated by many. So
that's it. Okay.
Well, that explains that. I think this is one of the areas that we, in an attempt to balance the budget, we were hoping to have a little bit more in this budget because of the popularity of the senior trips. But if council decides we need more money in that account, we will.
You won't turn it down?
Happily invite more seniors on more trips.
You could spend it. Is
We'd
what
be
you're saying.
thrilled. No trouble at all.
That line item before the pandemic was at $25,000 for a good period of time. Yeah.
So we were going to bump it up to 20, gradually rebuild.
The Golden Age Club used to be a recognition, well, they still are a recognition group, but they were a recognition group that received a grant from the city. And at some point, they decided, let's not have them go through the paperwork and just put it into their budget, and the recreation staff would manage it for them and their trips. So that's kind of what happened, but that was years ago.
Certainly agree with that. Hey, on page 221, I was wondering about the Food and Friends program, the meals, the hot meals there in the community center. I guess they've only come back this year, and it's 5 days a week. So I'm wondering, the RSVPs seem a little cumbersome. You have to RSVP a week, or is it 2 weeks ahead of time?
It's about a week. It is cumbersome. It's a county program where one of the locations, where one of the sites, it's, they use a vendor, of course, to supply the meals, and it's an arrangement they worked out with the vendor. The good news is we have a newer vendor and the food is much better. So even though the reservation system is not ideal, the food quality is excellent.
That's good. And more people are coming out. Is it the same people or is it different? I bet it's the same people pretty much because
We do have a group of regulars. We have a group that come early and stay late. It's a big social event for a lot of these folks. It's really important. So that they're there for the meal, but most people are there for more than the meal.
So it's a group usually of 10 or 15?
Well, we start serving lunch around 11:30 and keep serving lunch until around 1:30. So we actually have a couple of shifts. Some folks like to eat early, some folks like to eat later. So, yeah.
About how many people?
I would say it's averaging between 25 and 30 a day, sometimes as high as 35. It really depends on people's doctor's appointments, trips to see the grandchildren. So it fluctuates day to day.
Let's see. And just in terms of on this page also, performance measures. Anybody have any comments about the performance measures? I was thinking maybe something just recruitment and retention, just seeing how many people stay and the churn. I'm just interested in kind of getting a better sense of how many people are just staying in the program, how many people are kind of coming in and going out. So.
Analysis via RecTrack to help identify measures.
Mayor Pro Tem, and then
Well, one kind of small thing on this, I think that there's a few of them on here that I'm pretty sure this is attendance at programs, and I'm not sure that that's completely clear. I think it says trips and special events attendance, but I'm pretty sure all of these seem to be attendance at these things. So I think just saying that, I think some of these performance measures that are attendance say that, some of them don't, but I think just to make it clear that it's people attending. Because I'm pretty sure there aren't 6,006 free classes.
No, that's
There's probably 6,006 participants in the free classes. Yeah. Like I said, it's a small thing, but.
Okay, and finally, with the active aging class programs, maybe is there some way that we could, check into maybe holding a class over in Greenbelt East, over in Hunting Ridge, or Windsor Green, or Greenbrier?
We could talk to those folks and see what size rooms they have and if there's any particular type of class they're looking to provide.
I know at Greenbrier they have regular luncheons and different programs, and maybe there's some way you could actually incorporate educational program. Just work with them on that. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, Jenny.
I was wondering about the partnership with Spring Hill Lake Elementary School and what that program looks like.
Sure. We had our TR interim coordinator volunteer at Spring Hill Lake Elementary School in the second grade. Ms. Pope helped establish that relationship. And it was an effort to enhance her background with kids with different types of special needs. Our programs see more and more kids that need some additional support. And I think the second grade could benefit from another adult in the classroom. And so it's worked really beautifully, I think, both for our staff member in terms of getting more experience, dialoguing with the teachers to talk about different approaches to support these children with these diverse needs. And then the second grade classroom had another person there helping to support these kids. So my colleague said she's learned so much and developed some ongoing relationships with special educators where she can reach out and say, hey, you know, we have this kid coming to camp. They were at school or they had this challenge. Can you help me develop some techniques to try?
Great.
Thank you.
That's great.
Okay, let's see. We have a question. Mr. Orleans, you had a comment?
Thank you. A couple times tonight, the need for special transportation has come up. Kids, camps, ball games, whatnot, and old folks, field trips, maybe special transportation, a tour bus to Bowie for the Bay Sox games. Until about 10 or 12 years ago, the recreation department had 4 or 6 or several, I don't remember the number, passenger vans, which were utilized for a variety of purposes, recreational purposes. I never was a rider of one except on Labor Day, during the Labor Day festival, when I went to meet somebody and we rode down from the North End to Roosevelt Center. I never fully understood why the rec department or city manager, maybe generally, determined that those vans were no longer needed or maybe they couldn't be afforded. But given the discussion tonight about the need for special transportation for kids and old folks, I think it might be a good investment for the city to again invest in some number of passenger vans for purposes of conveying kids and old folks here and around. And as to a tour bus, I don't know how often the old folks or anybody even goes on tours, but I would also make the argument that rather than paying the exorbitant costs of a 60-passenger bus periodically, the city of Greenbelt might even invest in one of those and just keep it parked when it's not needed. But more particularly, I'd be interested in knowing about the procurement of some passenger vans for multiple purposes.
So, probably 15, 20 years ago, we decided to get rid of those passenger vans simply for safety reasons. They were prone to tip over. The people driving them weren't necessarily trained to drive those vans. As you fill them with people, the center of gravity raises, and they, potentially could tip. So I think it came down to, at the time, we primarily used them for kids, transporting kids on field trips and things like that down the Parkway and the Beltway, and nobody felt good about that. So we decided to decommission those vans. Now, are they safer now? I'm not sure. It's certainly something we can look into. Maybe they have gotten a lot safer over the last many years, but I think it's an option we can probably look into.
Thank you. Let's move on to page. Mr. Hartman, please.
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Garden. Have you looked at perhaps sharing some larger vans as part of the 4 Cities program? I don't know how often you would use those, and maybe that might be an idea to share some of those kinds of things like we share other large items that are not used all the time.
I think the topic has come up. We have a 4 Cities meeting coming up next week. Maybe we can bring it up.
And take advantage of that partnership.
We have talked about it before, yes. Let's move to page 220. The hour is getting late. And 222, actually, Community Center.
Die.
You're wearing the same shirt as is in your picture.
I am too. Before we get started here, I'd like to acknowledge Di. She is retiring. So
in 17 days, but who's counting?
Di's been with us for a little over 30 years, and 22 of those years she's been managing the community center, which I believe is one of the reasons why when you walk in there and you see the beauty over however many years the center's been open, it still looks like it's been open on day one. So she's been a huge part of our team. Thank you for everything you've done, Di, and we're going to miss you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So you're going to be around for a Bike to Work Day, aren't you?
I will admit that, yes, I scheduled my last day 2 days after Bike to Work Day. It is a fact, yes.
A shock. But job well done. So thank you for putting this information together. Just looking at the budget itself on page 223, salaries are up, benefits are down, building maintenance is up. I noticed in general, a lot of sections of personnel benefits are actually down. So
Talked about that last time, yeah.
This budget is missing the revenue page as well, so I don't.
It was in the
That should have
packet.
been included in your packet of reports. There's a separate page.
But to answer the question about benefits, is because we actually recorded actual numbers as opposed to projecting what could happen. For many years, the city has, any vacant position, just assumed that it would be, benefits would be at the mid-range level as opposed to the individual level. I did drop it down to individual for vacant positions, and also if, any benefit that staff actually participate in is with actual numbers and not projected numbers. This was our way of helping to close the gap.
that is helpful. Thank you so much. Hey, looking at that revenue page, so that we increased the rental fees or something, $5. So is that having much of an impact? Have you actually lost any tenants as a result of increasing?
Actually, we haven't lost any tenants, so that was effective last fiscal year.
Maybe we should raise it another $5.
It's in the separate packet, Jay.
Right, the revenue page is.
It's in the PDF.
It's page 9.
Think,
About how many tenants do we have?
I think 12. That's a community center revenues.
So we have 5 tenants if you include planning and community development, because they do pay us rent. And then we also have the artisan residents.
Yeah, we should increase the rent on planning and community development.
Let's do it.
Yeah. And just as far as other community groups that rent rooms and whatnot, that you go in. I go into the community center on a Saturday or Sunday. There's birthday parties. There's church groups. How many church groups are actually in the community center?
So right now, we have 2 regular church groups. We have a new one now that is using our space only because they had a flooding issue. And then we've maintained all of our athletic groups that came back. So we have basketball and volleyball every evening of the week. And so that's really popular. Some of the groups have been with us since 1995. So we're really glad too that they came back after COVID, and they also appreciated how we reopened safely. So every evening, starting some nights at 4:30, depending on what group is renting, it's booked all the way until closing. In the gym specifically, yeah.
And I know we have a number of homeowners associations and condominium associations. How many? Is it 6 or 7 of them?
Right now, we have 3 that have come back, and most of the other ones stayed virtual. So we have 3 that regularly will meet. I think it's once a month usually that they meet with us, and they're under the recognition group status, so they get free space.
I'm especially curious about the commercial kitchen. That's something that we're doing some upgrades or something to the commercial kitchen this coming year, or did we do some upgrades? Or?
No, we put in the budget to request some new equipment, but I don't think it made that. Is that correct, Andrew?
Yeah, some of those items have been overdue for replacement, and we've kind of been pushing it back year after year, but we're certainly due.
Getting any traction, any utilization? During the pandemic, there were a lot of ghost kitchens and whatnot that popped up, people with catering businesses, and they needed to prepare the food to use in their food trucks. Have we gotten any inquiries about that, or has it been problematic to try and work out the logistics of working with small caterers that are trying to prepare food for food trucks?
Right, so right now, we have one regular renter who has a state permit. They make mole on Monday afternoons, and the hall smells very good. And then we are just renting to Cheers. They approached us. They're going to be doing a Food for Life cooking program, where they're going to actually harvest from Three Sisters Garden. So they're doing a 6-week class for that. As far as adding more renters, it is really challenging going through the county. It's very expensive, and it's a long process. And I do get calls, but I can tell within the first 30 seconds if they know what they're doing. Because they have to have several licenses, and to go through that whole process, we need to ensure that they're going to rent from us. And what I experienced pre-COVID is I'd go through that process, and it would take me 2 months. And then they'd get their permit, and they would never rent from us because we were an hourly rate. And they called me a year later, and I wouldn't renew them, and they'd say, why? Well, because you never rented from us. So one of the goals that I had was to go to more of a monthly, where they go into contract, and they pay a flat rate a month for a certain amount of hours.
Right.
And then if they want additional, they would pay the fee for that. And that would ensure that they're actually going to use the kitchen after we put all the effort in to getting them their permits. Now, that didn't come to fruition due to several things that kept coming across my desk. But that would be the goal of the kitchen, is to move in that direction, because there are folks that want to rent it. But
Greenbelt,
right.
Our residents are aspiring.
But one thing I will say, as some advice, I would strongly advise against food trucks, because most of them want somewhere to dump. They want a commissary, and they need to dump their, when I say waste, more water, like from when they're cleaning their equipment. And the last thing you want is them dragging buckets down the hall to dump it down our sink. So I specifically had said we're not taking any food trucks for that reason, because they prep the food in their truck. So, and the commissaries are very expensive. So when they see our rate, they're like, score, I can do an hour a week and I can dump my stuff. And that would just, Public Works would have picketed outside my office if there were buckets flooding the hallways because they tripped or something. Yeah.
Just a matter, that's like compostable food scraps and whatnot?
It's more if they're in there, they have to sanitize their equipment and pots and pans or whatever it is, right. And so they need to they can't just like go dump it on the corner. They actually have to show through the county with their permit that they have a commissary, that they're dumping it properly. And so that's what I experienced. Some of them will say, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Well, then what do you want to do? Because you're prepping your food in your food truck. Yeah.
So it's wastewater with bleach and whatnot in
Correct.
there. Yeah.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I just wondered, looking at this revenues, one of the things that we talked about with the dance floor improvements was the ability to potentially rent that space as an additional space to rent. Is that reflected in the fiscal 25 proposed rental?
So initially, the idea of the increased revenue would be the classes that would move off the stage into that space. So right now, the classes that are not suitable for the regular dance studio, that are tap, that would really take a beating on that floor, the wooden floor. The idea is to move them out of there, and then the gym would be rented at that time, because you can't really have a group of kids tap dancing while there's a bunch of people playing volleyball or basketball. It doesn't work with just a curtain in between. So if those classes were moved, then the gym could be rented, and there's about 6 hours of classes a week. So there's potential to rent the gym out, because the classes are then moved to the annex.
But is that reflected then in the rental rates for fiscal 25, the possibility of further rentals of the gym?
I don't believe it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, looking at the percentage of revenue to expenditures, for the community center, it seems to be a little bit lower, but I would imagine that the overhead costs in the community center are probably higher. So to Mr. Samaran, when we look at these numbers, what would be the overhead cost of operating the city? Is that something that we should be incorporating or thinking about in these numbers in general? I should ask Ms. Gaiman. Ms. Gaiman.
I'm sorry, I was right.
Take the question again, please.
Overhead cost, just running the community center, is usually with most big institutions, there's an overhead cost, and we got a lot of infrastructure, so I would expect that our overhead cost, if you took the city as a whole, would be around 25-30%, something like that.
It could be on a percentage basis. From a cost allocation, there are a lot of costs that are not being directly associated to a department. So our information technology expenses, we have much of the cost in a department, but there are ancillary costs that are not tracked. Likewise, for our finance department, finance and payroll supports the entire organization. That's overhead cost that isn't attributed to a specific department. It's payable, so many other things that we're just not, right, that we're not tracking in that way.
I mean, to get into the weeds, but most hospitals or museums, the overhead cost is like around 50%. Over at the University of Maryland, it's like 45-50%. So,
and I've been in organizations where the overhead exceeds 35% of the cost. So I don't think that we're special in any way. I think we'll be in the 30s.
and it does sort of give a more complete picture of exactly how much it costs to run the city. Yeah. Hey, so let's go. Yes.
Yes, I had two questions. First, going back to the commercial kitchen, I wonder if there are any relationships you have with the Prince George's County Food and Permitting Office that they could recommend your kitchen to people who have committed or completed the licensure, or if that's perhaps an option.
One of the challenges with the county is they do have a list of kitchens that have licenses. So we have a license just to run our programs. And one of the challenges is when someone walks into the county office and say, hey, I'm a caterer, I want to rent a kitchen. They say, oh, great, the community center. Sure, you live in Greenbelt. And I've gotten calls from inspectors saying, hey, we're going to come next week to inspect for this caterer. And I'm like, well, who are they? And so the county doesn't always do a good job to say, you know what, you need to talk to them first, because the person is thinking the county runs the building. And so it is challenging. And I've worked with the inspector supervisor. Her name is Deborah, and she's been there for almost 40 years. And I've worked with her, and she tries to educate the staff, but a lot of them are down and they're doing permitting for not just kitchens, but permitting for you want to put a shed in your backyard. So they just have the list and they give it to them.
Got it. Clearly a lot underlying there that I didn't know. Thank you. Thank you.
It is challenging.
And then my other question was, I was reviewing the rental fees, and we are so accessible. I really appreciate that about the city, that we rent out these spaces at such affordable rates. However, one that really caught my eye was the dance studio, that it is such a specialized space and it is still rented at only $40 an hour. I wonder if you'd considered raising that just to account for the fact that it's a very specialized floor and requires proper use, and it might also encourage renters to be more careful with it if they had more skin in the game, if you will.
It's certainly something to be considered. Our dance studio is mainly rented by groups that have been with us a long time, and they really value the space. So there's several groups that have been with us since the late 90s, and they know the rules of the room in terms of no street shoes on the floor. And we're really particular about who new renters that come in. So we have regular dance groups down there all the time. They are based on people paying to come to their clubs. So I don't know how much of an effect that would have on those groups if we raise the fees more for them. But yeah, we're very particular in terms of the flooring down there and maintaining the space. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hey, flipping back to the budget book on page 24, on the top part of that page, so you've got capital outlays for major maintenance, and it's zeroed out. Maybe that kind of goes back to my question about overhead. What is that? Why is it?
We're not sure why that's in there. I don't think there's been a capital outlay for the community center for many years, so I just think that got added in out of error. Yeah.
Okay, because I know we have some plans to do some work on the boiler, or boilers and chillers.
There
are capital outlays.
There are accounts in here that Public Works manages that are included in the community center.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
So, and also there are expenses in prior years, and so as long as there's an expense, the line will show there, but we can remove it. Yes.
Okay. Skipping over to page 225, a couple of quick questions. I see you got the First Amendment auditor training over there. That's very interesting stuff. Have we had any situations where First Amendment auditors have come into the community center, as far as you know?
As far as I know, no.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And I was just asking about the commercial kitchen, so we talked about that. The side entrance, is that operational now? By the parking lot, the library parking lot?
Yeah, there's a buzzing system on there, so people can just come in and the staff can just buzz them in. So it's actually been very effective. Yep.
Okay. Any questions from council? Okay, let's move on. Daquin Reno, what are we gonna, we're gonna close the city down. What are we gonna do?
I'm very concerned when she's telling us all these special things about the kitchen. I'm like, who knows this? Who knows this but Quinn? I don't know what we're gonna do.
Dumping my brain into Mr. Fallon over the next 4 weeks.
No comment. No.
And I look forward to seeing all of you on Bike to Work Day. Quick plug, you will receive one of these really cool water bottles. A new sponsor will be there.
I'll be stopping by like always before I go to work.
Thank you, Di.
Well, I'll bring my car because I got to I'll just bring a leg.
Okay, hey, let's move on to the Recreation Center. That's page 226. What do we got?
Latoya Fisher, Recreation Program Supervisor, is going to join us. Kind of a tag team with Recreation Center between Andrew and Latoya with the facility and the programs.
Mostly Andrew.
All the tough questions of Miss Fisher. I am not the one. 226, management objectives. Let's see. Hey, the computer lab at Spring Hill Lake Recreation Center, I know in talking with Brian and the staff over there, since coming through COVID, so many of our young people have laptops. So having laptops there as a computer lab, a homework lab, for some reason seems to be it's just not needed quite as much. But I'm wondering if the space could be used as we ramp up with more workforce development classes or something where people can kind of.
Yeah, we'd like to make that space more multifunctional. Given a little bit of money, we'd like to get some nice tables in there, maybe a smart board, things of that nature. But also serve as a space for, the summer camp kids to eat lunch in there if need be. So our goal is to make it a multifunctional space, a meeting room. Oftentimes groups want to meet over there and they want to meet in the game room, and that displaces the kids. So if we could have that as a community meeting room as well, we'd like to do that.
Okay, so we got the clubhouse there as well. The clubhouse has a smart board and it has space. So we'd have the 3 spaces there.
Yeah, the clubhouse, yes, and the clubhouse is utilized a lot by the CARES department. We have Deji over there. He does some great stuff over there with tutoring and everything. So that is kind of unofficially space for CARES. So we kind of, just get that space over to them as they need it.
Okay, and we have rentals over there as well, church groups and.
Rentals over there have declined. And that's something we're hoping to reintroduce a little more if that space becomes a little more functional. There's not many spaces over there, and if we're doing rentals, we're displacing the kids, and that's a concern of ours.
Did we get is the ladies basketball up and running again, or is that something, things kind of phase up and down in time? And
that was, do you call Herb Allen?
Yeah.
He kind of headed all of that. So when he retired as a center leader, it kind of fizzled out. I think there's been attempts in the past to bring it back, but he was really pivotal in generating interest for that.
We've tried to bring back Ladies' Night as well, but we're not getting the interest like we used to have.
So just going back to the computer lab, rethinking that, what do you have a number in mind of how much money you would need to redo it in the way you envision?
We're not at that point. Right now, we don't have anything budgeted. So really, we'd like to get some nice tables in there, a smart board. So just thinking out loud, I think some $10,000 could go a long way, I would imagine. Nothing exorbitant.
Well,
Ms. Niesel?
just to go back a little bit, I know that there was some talk of doing a staff survey at the Spring Hill Lake Rec Center to see what that room could be used for potentially. I've been talking to Brian about potential uses for the space, and I want to shout out to Public Works because just with them removing the things for the painting, it already looks incredible. So just well done all around. It's already a more functional space.
That's fantastic. Looking at page 227 on line 1, the same thing I said before. Salaries are up especially since 2022. They're up about $100,000. Benefits are down, insurance is up. I noted something. Looking at the revenue sources, the tennis court rentals are, it's more money is coming in from the tennis court rentals than any other part other than fee-based revenues, more than the youth center, more than the Spring Hill Lake rentals, more than Strom Hill Park rentals. It's pretty amazing. I do have to note that the hours, DeMatha the team is out there all the time, and their hours are getting pretty long. I was out there today, and we had the DeMatha crew kind of came out early, and it was there was just all 8 courts were filled up basically. So I'd like to actually caution you on just maybe the hours are getting extended a little bit too long. What is it? It's 2 until or 3:30 until 7, pretty much.
Their actual permitted time has remained the same for quite some years, so they may be abusing their permitted time. So we'll have to follow up on that.
But that's a lot of revenue. So
yeah, we're going through a fee increase. We've kind of made a small increase, and then it was only $5 an hour per court. This year we're bumping up to $7.50, and then starting next fiscal year will be $10 an hour.
Should be more than that. Any other comments on this page?
Just quick shout out, now that we're officially in a meeting, the City Stars were on Fox 5 today. So shout out to and it looked really good with the new paint. I'm like, oh, this looks so good. It was perfect timing, but
Yeah, I'm glad we got the painting done before we were on TV.
The floor looked great. The walls looked good. Everything looked really good. And Mr. Gibbs were there, and Coach K, I think it is.
And they also
Yeah,
have
the
a
girls
banner
were-
hanging in the rafters.
Yes, thank you, Coach K, for the idea. The banners look great.
But it looked really good. So shout out to the City Stars for doing a great job on TV today.
Councilmember McKinney.
I'm excited to see how it evolves, but I think it's really, really looking good. So thank you for putting in the time. That question about, we were talking about the computer room and turning that into a multifunctional space, but is there something in the budget that also addresses looking at the tables and the chairs and the benches that is in the bigger space as well? And I don't know if that's included, because right now that's in there is mainly like outdoor benches that have been put inside.
Right, that's something that just in our general budget items that we can address. If they need some new tables, 6-foot tables, things of that nature, we have a general budget we can handle that with.
Well, it's good. Any plans at all for Strom Hills Park, the rec center, anything at all?
There's no plans in the, that we have immediately to do anything at Strom Hills Park. It's such a small space. It's too bad when it was built they didn't expand that, so would be more usable for classes. It's just more or less a meeting space. I know Cheers uses it a lot, but outside of that, maybe Cub Scouts and Girl Scouts, but that's about it. When they want a meeting, if Greenbelt East people, but that's rare, yeah.
The poetry, which is I guess Cheers.
Cheers,
So, yeah.
right, yeah.
And there's also
An extreme team program there.
Summer,
PG
that's
Parks
Parks and
uses that
Plants, yeah.
space.
There's also some discussion of making it kind of a park ranger headquarters as well, having a little office there with a ranger on duty.
Okay, and that fee-based revenue, what is that in here on page 227 at the bottom?
I believe that's just the total of the items above that, yes.
Okay. So, Ms. Fisher, now we got to get some questions from Ms. Fisher.
She's here for the next 3 budgets, so there'll be plenty for her.
Somebody ask her a hard question. No?
Oh, I have a question about is the park permits on this one. I had heard that you had declined to take any rentals for parks simply because they were in rough shape. Is that accurate information? And do you project that we would be able to offer rentals at, say, Buddy Attic at any point in the future?
So that particular line item, the park permits, is Buddy Attic only. Schramm has its own line item, and we haven't done permits for Buddy Attic. It's pending the Buddy Attic Park Master Plan, and also our group picnic area is not ideal. When we've rented that in the past, there's no shade, and groups often want to relocate to, under that really big tree that's right next to the group picnic area. So we haven't done permits for that in several years, but we will reintroduce those pending the Buddy Attic Park Master Plan.
Well, it sounds good. Let's move on. Ms. Fisher, we'll get you next year.
Don't worry, I'll be here for the next parts.
Next year.
She's here for the next two budgets. Yep.
Programs, here we go.
Not out of the woods yet.
No.
So I on these major highlights, somebody's got to translate. I did take Latin in high school, so.
We apologize for that. Some of those things we make over.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want to thank Greg, Andrew, the council, Jose, anybody else I might have forgot, because Spring Hill Lake Rec paint job is beautiful. The kids appreciate it. Frank and Brian appreciate it. I appreciate it. I appreciate the green line around too. I really do. Thank you for that.
That was special for you, Coach K.
And I heard that, and I appreciate that. That's the carpet came. I appreciate that. It looks good. And you know, I just want to say thank you, y'all. Y'all are working. It's slow, but you know, I appreciate it, and I thank y'all. And the kids, thank you. Brian and Frank, thank you. And I want to just say this real quick. I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. I was under the impression that we were going to get some help from elsewhere on furnishing the multi-purpose room, because what's in there is terrible. But it looks like the other party, I'm not even going to go through that. If there's any suggestions that anybody has that we could try to get some nice furniture in there before the camp starts, I'm all ears. I have some, but we need some furniture in there badly. So I'm just putting that out there. Okay? Thanks again. And I'm going home.
Okay, recreation programs?
Hopefully we can finish up pretty soon. We don't have very many pages to
We're
go.
gonna don't
Almost-
offer anything.
we're almost
right
at the
now.
end.
Just- you know.
Anybody got anything?
Let's see.
On page 229.
We'll need to update those major highlights, and we'll get that done.
See what Google Translate, what Google Translate thinks those highlights mean.
First one is a raise of $1 million for the current recreation supervisor.
Ah.
I can certainly give you some highlights, most of which are largely due to LaToya. The one she and I identified that will make it here at some point are our teen takeover program. That's just been phenomenal. And our colleague AJ, who works at the youth center, has done a great job. He has such a wonderful relationship with those teens, and it's trickled into our camp intern and our camp staff program. Anytime we get involved with these kids, we pull them in and get them to work for us as soon as they can. The other program, many of you were there, is the Learn to Earn program that had its first incredibly successful year. We're so excited about that and the investment in those kids. It's wonderful. LaToya, I think you should share the next one.
So our last one is the free tennis program. We partnered with JTCC to get free lessons in Greenbelt West as well as historic Greenbelt. And they did them in Spring Hill Lake in the wintertime. So we had 6 classes from January to February for about an hour and 15 minutes. So they did it for the after school program. So there were about 20 participants. And then at the end of the program, they offered 7 scholarships, 10-week scholarships to continue training to some of the participants who showed a really positive attitude and enthusiasm for the lessons. And we just started up in historic Greenbelt on Mondays for an hour and a half. They're going to do 9 meetings and it ends June 3rd. And last time I spoke with Ava, who coordinates over at JTCC, they were at 18 participants.
Great, that's awesome.
It's fantastic. They are the best tennis training facility in the region. They really are.
Just to remember, TFO was in Spring Hill Lake Elementary School, that's where he's, and he trained over at, I think, College Park.
He did.
Yeah,
Mhm.
where his father worked. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's good to hear. Hey, just looking at page 230, so under line 58, special programs, how come that went down to 10,000?
Yeah,
Did
so
that get moved someplace else?
so that should really be about 86,000. So I think that 10,000 was to account for the extra money that we asked for. So this is the supplies for camp and activities, as well as the preschool program. And we had asked for additional funding for Learn to Earn, as well as our teen and tween takeover program.
Okay.
You said that 86,000?
Correct.
And looking at page 231, just in general performance measures, I know that some council members have said that they really want to see more meaningful performance measures. So did you guys have some suggestions?
Well, one thought I had was that it would be nice, I think, especially thinking about some of the DEI efforts we're trying to take in making sure we're reaching all residents. I think it would be great if we had a breakdown of residents versus non-residents, how many of those campers come from different parts of the city. And I don't know if we collect any demographics, but I think that all of those things, just because if we don't measure more precisely who we're serving, we don't know if we're reaching everybody we want to reach. So I don't know. I don't know what information we collect or what information, and probably too late for this year, but I think that's something to think about, that we want to make sure that the people who are attending the camps that we're serving everybody who we can serve.
Yeah, we'll look at performance. We're always trying to do better with our performance measures because I think that really tells the story of what we do. So we'll take a look at that and see how we can present that a little better.
Numbers is good, but I think some things beyond just straight attendance numbers would be nice.
Councilmember McKinney.
Just to add on to that, one interesting thing would be sort of retention and how many students are coming back to your summer camps year after year. I assume that
Which
it's
I think,
probably
yes,
a
I think
lot.
we know they're high. But again, I think that gets back to what we talked about the last time we talked about this, was that we have these great stories. And I love also actually, sorry, building on that. Sorry, I got as excited. But thinking about, because I think it somewhere talks about how many of our the counselors who are former campers, right?
Yeah.
Like, what a great story is that, too, if some of our performance measures is percentage of camp counselors who attended our camps. I think we need to think about how we tell the story of what's happening here with the numbers as well as in the narrative.
Yep. Okay, yes.
I just wanted to thank you for including the camp fee comparison chart. I think it really highlights the fact that we offer some of the most affordable camps in the region. And as a parent who's sent their kids to these camps and to several of the camps on this list, like Greenbelt really offers some of the best camps. Like, I don't just say that because I'm a council member. I say that as a parent who's had their kids in Greenbelt camps and PG Parks camps and the city of Hyattsville camps, and like far and away, these camps were the best. They're the ones that my kids liked the most. Incredibly affordable, like 2 weeks of camp for $360. That's like
crazy talk. I mean, you can pay. I mean, some camps cost $500 a week. Like if you send your kid over to Friends to camp there, like, I mean, it's really pretty great that your parents have this option and that it's not just affordable, but it's good. You know, like you're putting your kids in a place where you know they're safe and they're going to have fun, which is really important. So I'm just really thankful that we have these programs.
Thanks.
So keep it up. Keep up the good work.
We will.
Hey, on page 232, I hope with the Learn to Earn program or other workforce development programs, things for young adults, helping them get ready to transition into the workforce. I think hopefully we're going to expand that. So are we actually expanding the second cohort of Learn to Earn? And are there some other things that we're trying to launch?
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Okay. And the new adult fitness classes, they sound pretty cool. Tell me about the interval cardio trainings. That sounds like something I'd like to try, as long as there are AEDs around.
Well, those are on the first floor. So yes, we had an instructor, Amy, come to us, and she has classes on Mondays and Wednesdays. They're really great. So one of the good things is that basically, you don't repeat a lot of the exercises and you just have to work hard for like 30 seconds and then you get to recover. I took the classes and I could not successfully walk the next day, but I felt good. I felt good about what I did. So the classes have been fun, and she, does modifications, and so they've been pretty well received. So we're excited about just trying to also reach like that middle demographic, kind of like the 35, 40 age range, because I feel like we cater a lot to the kids and a lot to like the active aging seniors, but getting some more classes, like fitness classes in that middle range. So it's been really nice.
Right, and that's first floor of the community center?
202. So it's on
202.
202. I think it's 5:30 to 6:15
On Mondays?
on Mondays and Wednesdays.
I gave you a little business card there. You can hit it with your phone and it'll pop up our activity guide right on your phone.
Let's do that, Emmett. You and I, we go. Emmett and I, we go there. I just had this card. I have it. I have it stuck in here. Yeah. So.
Okay. Hey, let's go ahead and pivot to special events. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
One more question. I know there's been some interest over in Greenbelt Station to do like outdoor kind of activities in the Central Park area. So I didn't know if that had come up, if it may be a future ask, but a lot of the community had been trying to even work with the HOA to figure out what they could do through the activities committee and things like that.
Yeah.
So I know that there would be interest in some of those different age ranges and utilizing that park.
We tried that before when I was a coordinator. Derek Faison, who did a great job of teaching one of our Fit and Fun cardio classes, and we couldn't really get the traction. But I mean, I'm definitely open to trying it again. Again, that was probably like 2019. So maybe, there's more of an interest now. Well, let's do it. Yeah, we can give it another try.
Yeah, and I think we also there was the yoga class that we did as well. And there was, putting on my Greenbelt Station Activities Committee hat, we had talked at our meeting last week about some ideas because one of our members did a survey in the Facebook group about some things that they were interested in. So that's something that's been on my list to try to coordinate, arranging some of those classes. Of course, they have to, it's weather dependent. We only have the outdoor space. We don't have anywhere to, so it's somewhat limited in terms of when we can do them. And if it rains, we won't. But that is something that, yes, has come up. So.
Okay. Hey, let's move on to special events.
You stay right there. Look away.
All right. Anybody have any questions? 12,200 participants. Over 300 registrants to the Gobble Wobble.
A lot of people on Gobble Wobble. That was a lot. That was really something.
It was really awesome.
Yeah.
How many years have we been doing that, Gobble Wobble? About 15?
18.
We started in 2006.
Yeah.
Some of the runners are very serious. Others aren't.
The whole spectrum.
Okay, I don't really have any questions or anything. Did you?
I think I had one last question on 237, which is, I guess, parks. So maybe this is a public works question, but it was the park and playground maintenance. Looked like the proposed budget went up a lot, but is that a public works question?
Yes.
Okay. At line 24 on 237. It's just that's a pretty significant increase, and I think that's one of the challenges of with some of these things being in with Public Works, that I had not looked at this page before we met with Public Works. So that could be a follow-up question for them.
Okay.
We're looking for ways of improving how this presented. Parks has always been with recreations, but Greg and the team doesn't manage parks. It's Public Works, and it's been like that for how long?
As long as I can remember, and I've been here over 30 years.
Okay, Councilmember Palmer?
Yes. I just had a question. I don't know if you guys can answer this now, but the park ranger salaries, I just noticed they didn't increase, and I thought we were doing sort of across the board COLA, so I didn't know if that was. Got it. Okay.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions. Jay Davis, then Michael Hartman.
Jay Davis, Greenbelt East. I just have one question, and Latoya is probably the person I need to ask. See, you sat down too soon. I always, on page 236, always look at this list of special events, and sometimes I think, oh, but there was others, but those are sponsored by other city organizations, and so we don't put that in. But we did have, a couple of years ago, a food truck festival, and it was very well attended. Are we thinking of doing that again?
Andrew?
Somebody else asked that too.
It's not on our list at the moment. It's something we can talk about. We'd have to find a spot for it.
Quite honestly, the Greenbelt Labor Day Festival Committee did that as a fundraiser, and they did a lot of the legwork, and it's
Yeah.
a significant amount of work, especially in terms of permitting with the county. And
It's
right
not as
now,
easy as driving some trucks up. You have to. There's a lot of permitting through the county that you have to get to make this
Okay.
happen. Yeah.
Having done that for one of our Greenbelt Station events when we had a food truck, I can say yes, it is a lot of paperwork.
Okay, and because I know that it was held at Shrum Hills, and there was parking, and everybody had a good time. And because of COVID, I think everybody wanted to come out and buy something. So I'm glad that you're thinking about it, but yes, permitting can be a problem.
Okay. Mr. Hartman?
Michael Hartman, 2 Court Roadway. As the official Grinch who tried to steal 4th of July, I'd like to bring up the question of fireworks and drone shows and things of that nature. I did bring it up before and was told that I should come to the budget session. So finally, I would like to, first I want to thank our wonderful city manager for doing a lot of work on it, which I didn't know he had done. And I would like him to share what he found out. But I think it's really important that that we look at that. And so I appreciate it if you could discuss that as far as a budget item. I don't see it on the, I see it on the special events on page 236. It's listed as one of the events, but I don't see it on page 235, your performance measures. So I'm wondering about that. But also just a quick note, for planning purposes, the quincentennial is happening in 2 years.
Yes.
And if you guys are going to be doing any special planning for that, I would suggest that you book folks. People are booking folks now and have been for a year or two for things like special events, or if you want to bring outside vendors in to do anything. that it would behoove you to start planning now for that, budgeting and planning for it. It's anyway. So I would like to have some discussion about the drones. I found out some information, but Mr. Talmarone had good information as well and covered everything that I had found out. So if you could do that, I'd appreciate it.
Mr. Summerall?
Yes, we looked into the drone programs for the 4th of July, and the proposal that we received from a team would put the drone shows at a price range of $40,000 to $120,000, and it depends on the number of drones that we would have in the air. A standard show would be a 12-minute show, and that's because of the battery capacity of the drones. If you want more than 12 minutes, then you're essentially adding shows. So the cost, it's more than what a typical fireworks show is. And the current budget in page 234 includes $20,000 for the traditional fireworks show. So we looked at the pricing to see if we could, from a budget perspective, add it to the budget to just leave it as an option, considering that it takes some time to plan, and 4th of July happens right at the beginning of the fiscal year. So we have to book that show. We booked it back in January just to be able to get on a schedule, because if we miss our window, we could end up without a show. But we wanted to, we explored it, put it in the budget. Given the $3 million gap that we had, we looked at cutting a lot of things, and that was one of the things that didn't make it on the list. But it's something that we explore. We are open to continuing to explore that. If this is something council wants to add to the budget, we'll have to find where to take an additional $20,000 to $100,000 for a show.
Well, thank you for doing that research. Mr. Hartman.
Yeah, with the drones, you can do something that you can't do with fireworks, and that is get sponsorships. And what happens is that the sponsors have their logo as one of the presentations. So it's a good opportunity for local businesses or whatever to offset some of the costs of it. That would add more time to it, and also and it would be spaced out so that working with sponsors to help defray the costs is something you can do with drones. It has been done a lot. In fact, paying for that. The thing about 4th of July is that the drone shows are at a premium on 4th of July because so many cities are doing drones instead of fireworks. So the demand for it is very high right now, and that's why it's so expensive. But that also proves the viability of it and the fact that a lot of cities want to do that. And so think about sponsorships too.
Okay, appreciate that information. Somehow it would be nice to, poll or talk, see what people think about this idea. I don't know what mechanism we might have for some sort of a survey of our residents, because a lot of these special events really are driven by the public.
We have the survey technology. We can put together a survey and circulate it before the 4th of July event, at the 4th of July event, and post 4th of July event. See what the sentiment is and track the responses based on all those different periods, so to see if the sentiment is affected by the event itself.
Well, I'd like to take a moment just to, thank Mr. Varda, Suderman, Andrew Phelan, and really all the members of the Recreation Department for the very specialized work. And it is a team effort.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that very much.
Thank my colleagues that came out tonight, especially the two that stuck it out to the end. They're, the Toy didn't have a choice, but they're their dedication, their passion, their commitment to the city and the recreation department, you can see it in these books and what we talked about tonight. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention our partnership with our other departments in the city. We rely heavily on Public Works, especially Public Works. A lot of this stuff could not happen without their help. So we really appreciate that.
And just going on a little bit further, the full-time staff is just phenomenal, but all the part-time people and the professionals with special skills, special talents that teach classes. I mean, it truly is a team effort, and the fact that I think you said 72% of our recreation department employees are actually from the city of Greenbelt.
City of Greenbelt or Eleanor Roosevelt High School.
It's powerful.
That's a big number.
So arguably, the recreation department's actually helping to drive the economy, the local economy, with jobs. So what more could I possibly say?
Good night.
Well, no. We've got an information item.
It's very quick. There was a Goddard Town Hall today, and they talked about the BW Parkway Bridge construction. And I believe on-site mobilization was supposed to begin, they said late April, so that's like now. And construction starting May of this year, expected completion of July 2025. So those are rough dates, but that was brought up. The other thing that I think seemed relevant, I think this was in response to a question that was sent in. They talked about that Goddard doesn't currently have plans for a shuttle from the Greenbelt Metro, but they may look to partner with the University of Maryland. And that made me think like some kind of circulating thing. That made me think that, we've talked about that a lot, but there could be another partner for doing, for the circulator that I know Conrad Hurlingham and others has talked about, but I'm not sure that we've thought about talking to Goddard about coordinating with that since they're, just on the edge of us. There was also a question about EV charging for employees, and unfortunately they have some equipment, but not enough money to finish the installation of the equipment, so that we will not be getting employee EV chargers at Goddard soon, unfortunately. But those were the three things that seemed like they were relevant to the city. Not the EV chargers so much, but I think that, anyway, that's my information item.
Okay. Well, it's a pretty busy weekend on the 27th. There's just a ton of things. I've got about a couple of things. I don't know, maybe. Well, definitely electronic recycling. So if there are no further comments, let's call it a night. Oh, one more thing. So we were talking about the recognition group, splitting that into 2 sessions. And I didn't get a chance to weigh in on that, but what are we thinking? Are we thinking about splitting that up? I actually thought the virtual suggestion was a good suggestion, because I always have felt that by having the session on a weeknight, it's just really hard for some of the recognition groups to send board members. Some of them have a really hard time with that.
I think many of them did participate virtually last year.
They have the option to show in
Yeah.
person or do it virtually. Yeah.
We received 4 responses from council and to the proposal of either shifting the timeline for the meetings or adding an additional meeting for May 7th or May 9th. So we received 4 responses in support of option B to add the May 7th meeting, which will put it on a Tuesday. And that's, we took the affirmative emails from 4 individuals as the direction that we needed to work towards.
Okay, everybody got that?
Does that work? A May 7th work session?
I think it'll work. I gotta double check on something, but May the 7th. Okay.
Okay, so we'll proceed with scheduling the May 7th, and Greg and the team will figure out.
So is that going to be logistically? You'll be able to.
Yeah, Kathy Pratt coordinates that meeting, so if that's the plan, I'll touch base with her and she'll start reaching out to the groups tomorrow and try to reschedule them. Hoping everybody can either, switch their date, and we'll see what happens.
Well, is the Zoom option still there?
The Zoom option is still there. Yes, anybody can do it Zoom. Yep.
Well, thank you so much. Let's bring this. I see a council member's already left.